Chapter 5166. The princess consort of Zheng, Shi Yongyan, was so angry that she felt dizzy. She sat on the armchair and pursed her lips, her sharp eyes shooting mercilessly at the person who spoke. Lin Wan was so frightened that she almost jumped up from her stool. She hastily shrank to Mo Shikang's side and tightly clung to his sleeve, calling out pitifully, "Your Highness. Shi Yongyan, enough is enough." The man reached out and wrapped his arms around his beloved concubine's waist, glaring fiercely at Shi Yongyan. Shi Yongyan couldn't help but laugh out loud. As she laughed, tears flowed down uncontrollably. "Mo Shikang, sooner or later, you will be harmed by these people. There's no medicine for regret in this world." Today, she said these words and was unwilling to say anything else. Shi Yongyan threw down these words and immediately got up to leave. Su Shitao burst into tears and shrieked, "Big brother, look at sister-in-law, look at what my sister-in-law said. Is our family a plague? Don't we have the right to stay in the Prince of Zheng's fu? Younger sister, don't cry. The princess consort didn't mean it that way." Lin Wan hastily stepped forward to coax her. However, Su Shitao didn't give her any face and even flung her hand away in disdain. "Lin Shi, you're just a concubine. What are you doing in my room without any manners? Is this young lady's boudoir a place where a lowly person like you can enter?" Lin Shi seemed to be frightened. She stood up from the bed and retreated a few steps, one hand clutching her stomach as she looked at Su Shitao with teary eyes. "Mo Shikang berated and stepped forward to support his beloved concubine. Su Shitao pounded the bed and shouted angrily, "Big brother. You actually yelled at your own younger sister for this shameless concubine. This woman came to our fu with no status and a pregnant belly. Do you know that the streets and alleys outside are all talking about your romantic affairs? Everyone is laughing at our Prince of Zheng's fu. How do you want me, an unmarried girl, to find a good family to marry in the future? Others think that our Prince of Zheng's fu is foul and full of shameless sluts. Shut up." Mo Shikang was so angry that smoke was coming out of his head. His younger sister's words were like a slap to his face. Moreover, it was a series of slaps that burned his face. "Woo, Your Highness, this concubine cannot live anymore." Mrs. Lin called out coquettishly and threw herself into Mo Shikang's arms. While rubbing her eyes, she cried, "This concubine actually insulted an unmarried miss like this. This concubine can only take my child to die with me. Woo, no one is willing to give this concubine and my child a way out." Mo Shikang hurriedly hugged her waist lovingly and whispered, "Wan, don't be sad. Sister is just spouting nonsense. Don't listen to her nonsense." As soon as he finished speaking, he glared angrily at Su Shitao and shouted sternly, "Tao, you're really too presumptuous and audacious. Big brother already told you not to provoke that crown prince consort, but you just didn't listen. Now that he's beaten up like this, he's not even willing to settle down even though he's bedridden. Your eldest sister-in-law is right about a few things. The Count of Huainan was fined his salary and suspended from court by the emperor. Big brother was also implicated by this matter. The incident in Guangnan City was a warning from the emperor to your big brother. If there's a next time, your big brother may also be unlucky. So you really have to cultivate your body and mind well. Don't make trouble again. During this time, stay at home and don't go anywhere." Chapter 5178. Just as the two men were about to crash onto the banquet table, the next day, two black figures suddenly and the sun hung high above the legs of the two guards. Early in the morning, both of them jumped back and steadied the two group of children to the imperial garden. Only then did everyone let out a collective sigh of relief. Mo floated around her twice and kept circling around, frightened. Arbor even though they had steadied and tilted his head, their faces couldn't help but turn pale. "Do you have something to say to me?" Someone's here to cause trouble. Who was floating around, nodded with a dazed expression to the side and patted his chest. Arbor waved at her pretending to be frightened to sit beside him. The little crown
What do you want to
princess
say?
turned to look at the arched entrance
Why
of
don't
the
you
court
try
with
using
a
my
frosty
gold
beaded
expression?
talisman pen and see if
She
you can
saw a
write on the
group of
jade
people
talisman.
crowding around a white-clothed woman.
Mo's ability to
Weapons in their
express
hands.
herself was very problematic.
All the guests hurriedly
She
stood
seemed
up
to
and
find it
gathered
difficult
towards
to
the center.
express what she wanted to say.
Everyone looked at these
Arbor
uninvited
wanted her to
guests
see
with
if she could write down her
panic.
request directly. The atmosphere was
Upon
suddenly
hearing
filled
this,
with a
the
tinge of
dazed
tension.
Emoji repeatedly
Both
nodded her
sides
head.
silently raised their guard.
She circled Xiao Mu in
Jojo
circles and finally found a home
Second
for her.
Antron hurriedly pulled
This
on her
soul
sleeve
floated
and
down
looked at the
beside
intruders
Arbor
with
and held the
surprise.
gold-beaded talisman
Who are
pen
you
that Arbor
people?
took out. Why have you
Sure
barged
enough,
into our
she
Chao
carved a
estate?
line of small words on
Xiao
the jade
Zhonggang
talisman.
and second Uncle Xiao also
Arbor took
asked
the
with
jade
a cold
talisman
expression
and looked at
Who
it.
are you?
He looked
State
at her
your
with a
name.
serious expression and asked
This is our
hesitantly,
holy maiden
"Are
of
you sure
Xiaoguang.
you want to do this?"
A woman in a
The
green
dumbfounded
dress with
Emo
a cold
nodded.
expression strode to the front
You
of the
saw
group
me use
and coldly
medicine to
glanced
save
at people
everyone.
before and thought that I might
She
be able
raised
to
her
make this
chin
kind of
high
pill.
and spoke slowly.
So the
holy
last few
maiden is
times you
here.
circled around me, you
Why
actually
hasn't
wanted
anyone
to
come
ask
forward
this?
to greet her?
Mo nodded
Everyone looked at
repeatedly,
each other,
their eyes
There was
revealing
no
an
expression
expression
of
on
looking
her
at an
dazed
idiot.
face.
But Arbor could
They had
feel
naturally
that she
heard
seemed
of
to be
Xiaoguang,
relieved.
an organization
It was
that
as
had been
if she was
developing
finally
very
able
well
to
in the
express
past 2
what she
months.
wanted to express.
However, in the
Her
eyes
face
of the
was full
madams
of
and
relief.
misses of the aristocratic families,
But you're only half
such a
a soul right
non-governmental
now.
organization was
If
nothing
you want
more
this
than a
pill,
small sect
Arbor
for the
suddenly
commoners to
paused
play
and had a
around
look
with.
of realization.
Naturally,
You
they
know where
wouldn't
to
put
find
them in
your
their
main
eyes,
body,
don't you? But they didn't expect
Mo
that
nodded
Xiaoguang
again.
would take themselves so
But
seriously.
once you start taking this pill,
Not
if
only
you stop
did they
taking
barge
it one
into the
day,
Xiao estate's
it might cause
100-day
you to be
banquet.
poisoned.
They even asked these madams
Also,
and misses
if
to
you
greet them.
continuously take it for 100
Wasn't
days,
this the biggest
there
joke
might be
in the
no
world?
turning back.
Arbor patted
Are you
second
sure you
Aunt
want to do
Ren's
this?
hand to appease her. Mo nodded
He
without
retracted his
hesitation.
hand and waved it casually.
Or perhaps, after you
He didn't
consume
want
it,
to say
you will
anything
even
more
forget
to these
about me.
people from Xiaoguang.
Mo was stunned.
In an instant,
7 or
then,
8
he
shadow
waved his
guards,
hand at
including
Arbor.
the 2 men in black who
Xiao
had
Mu
appeared
curled her
earlier,
lips in a rare
emerged
smile
from the
as she
crowd at
patted
the same
this soul.
time.
I
Without
respect
saying
your
a
decision
word,
and will
they
give you the
stepped
pill
forward
later.
to chase the holy maiden of
But before
Xiaoguang
that,
and the
I
others
have
away.
something for you.
The woman in
With
the
a
green
wave of her
dress was
small
immediately
hand,
angered.
a ball of light flew to
Her
the top
eyes
of
were
her
wide
palm
open
and floated
in
up
anger
and
as she
down.
raised her hand to block
Little
one of the
monkey,
secret guards,
who was lying at the side,
Don't act
immediately
recklessly.
jumped up and sniffed.
This is our holy maiden
Wow,
of bright
there's
light.
the smell of an ancient
You
sacred
guys,
beast.
Kong
All
Kong,
of you,
Guang Guang,
the
let
little
go,
monkey,
let go,
and Mo
let
all
go.
gathered around and stared
What
at
do
the
you
ceiling
want?
light above Arbor's palm.
Seeing that Arbor
blinking
had
their
sent a
eyes.
group of secret guards to chase
Within
them
the ball
away
of light,
without saying
there was a
anything,
small Snow
the
White
Saintess
thing
of Light
curled
and the
up.
others were obviously
Its
angry.
entire body was buried in its
Everyone,
large furry
please
tail.
don't be in such a hurry to chase
Only
him
a
away.
small snow white horn on its
Dressed in
small
a white
head could be
dress,
seen
the
swaying
Saintess
slightly.
of Light spoke up.
Arbor raised
Her
his
long
hand
hair
and
was
touched the
tied
ball of
behind her
light.
back, and her hands
He
were
sighed
crossed in front
softly
of her
and
lower
said,
abdomen.
"This is the little unicorn
Her
that my
posture
master
was
cut
dignified
open.
and demure. It was born before
Under
a
a
month
set
and
of
was
red
born with a
pomegranate
congenital
gemstone
deficiency.
headwear.
Her skin was
That's
fair.
why it grew very
Her cheeks
slowly.
were delicate, and half of her
Perhaps
face was
it still
covered with
needs
a white
100
veil.
years or 1,000 years
She
before it
indeed
can
looked
awaken.
holy and radiant, and
Or
she had a
perhaps
pure and
it
clean
won't be able to
appearance.
come out for generations.
But what kind of person was
But
Arbor?
I feel that it's very lonely.
At a glance, she felt
You're
that this
also
woman
very
was a bit
lonely.
like Nia Yaoguang. If the two of you can be
Unfortunately,
companions in the
Nia
future,
Yaoguang's
its
figure
figure
was
was even
quite
more
good.
graceful and ethereal
Arbor
than this
said
woman in
warmly.
front of her. She was also slightly taller. I wonder which one of you is the crown princess. This humble girl
Chapter
greets you.
5168.
The Saintess of Light
Just
nodded
like a
slightly,
long
and her
time
expression
ago,
didn't seem
Chocho
very
and I
respectful.
were
companions in the void. It's really hard to survive alone in such an empty place like the void. It's much
Chapter
better to have a companion by
5179.
your side. Impudent.
Regardless of whether it could
Kai
speak
Xiao
or not,
coldly
regardless of whether
who do you
it could
think
wake
you
up
are?
or not,
As long as
Crown
there was
princess,
something by her side,
is she someone you
she
can
would
meet
at least
whenever you
feel that
want?
there was an end to her path.
Arbor slightly waved her
There
hand,
was still some hope in life,
expressionlessly letting
wasn't
the
there?
two maids withdraw.
Just as Arbor
The
finished
two of them
speaking,
were separated
a small
by a few
emerald
empty
head
tables,
popped out from behind
coldly
her
looking
neck.
at each other.
Chocho,
Arbor
who was
clearly
rocking
saw a
back and
trace of
forth
disdain
with
in
two
this
tender
holy
leaves
maiden's
on its
eyes.
head, called out,
Ah,
Master,
she really
don't be
has
sad.
guts.
Chocho
Arbor
will
secretly
always be
thought,
by your
last
side.
time,
The person who showed this kind of look to her.
Why did
I
Chocho
wonder if
feel
their
like
bones
someone
have
was
turned
holding its
cold.
head and lifting it up?
She did not expect
Its
that
two
today.
black beady
There would be
eyes
someone
kept
who
blinking
dared to
upwards.
show this kind of look to her in public.
After looking for for a while.
Indeed,
it realized
the
that Crown
ignorant are
Prince had
fearless.
arrived at some point and was
Holy
currently
Maiden
holding it
heard
up
that a
and
person
throwing
of
it
tea
behind
on
his
Yun
back.
appeared in the Qiao residence.
Chiu
So she
hurriedly
specially
used its
came
two
to
thin
eradicate
branches
evil.
to hook onto his collar and hung it on the
Unexpectedly,
back of his
when
neck.
she saw it with her own eyes,
It huffed and
she was
puffed.
really shocked.
Master,
The
Crown
green-robed
Prince was a
woman
bad
loudly
silver.
said to the crowd.
Every time he
At
saw
this time,
Chiu by the
Holy
little
Maiden
master's
Zhao
side,
Guang also
he liked to
calmly
throw it
said,
out and kick
"Everyone
it out.
says that the Crown Princess
Mo
and
reached out
Tianyun
to take
are
the little
reconcilable.
unicorn's ball of light and
But
held
I
it
did
in
not
her
expect
hands.
that on the day of Crown
When her
Princess's
dazed
nephew's
face turned
100th
towards
day
Arbor,
banquet,
she
tried her
Tianyun
best
would
to
send a
squeeze out
star
a
of
stiff
stiff expression
expression
that
that
didn't
didn't
look
look
like
to
a
deliver
smile.
such a big gift.
Arbor said
Right
expressionlessly,
and wrong,
this
black
soul
and
fragment
white,
of yours
all
isn't like
lies
the
in the
main
human
body.
heart.
There's no need to force yourself to make it with their own eyes. Whether the crown princess restrained the strange expression on her face and nodded repeatedly. Everyone kept quiet. She held the little unicorn and gestured with her hands. What the hell? What does this little monkey said from the side? Big sister. Was it my sister said that she also wants to give you someone from the heavenly fate circle? There's no need. She really has guts. Arbor's face was stoic as she said expressionlessly. That the ladies and ladies of the aristocratic families were all smiling at the young crown princess realm that she used to live in is now with me. After several small banquets, she have? Who knows what the crown princess's temperament is like? Hee hee. If you don't provoke little her, monkey with her hurriedly gestured at she will not think of making things difficult for you. Big sister, if you insist on provoking her, perhaps my sister is a pauper on the spot. Arbor glanced at today's banquet was going well at the beginning, light with both but now it seems that there will be an unforeseen event. He couldn't help but everyone silently retreated a few steps and could not help but look if you give it to her. She will only praise you like this, as if they were looking at a fool. Don't tell me you want her to be like this for the rest of her life. Could it be that these people had been living a good life for too long and wanted to stay in jail for a while? Arbor muttered, "It's so hard for me." Or were they here to provoke the crown princess? I'm really worried about this dumb little fool. What was he after? After pondering that he wanted to make a name, she took out a jade tablet from her pocket and tossed it onto Mo Lee's body. Just how muddle-headed was their little attached to the jade tablet and slowly hung it around Mo's in front of the little stoic crown princess. Arbor heaved a sigh of relief based on everyone's understanding of the crown princess. They were afraid that this matter would not end peacefully. It can still use the storage talisman. After the Holy Maiden of Light finished her impassioned speech, she instructed Mo to put the little unicorn into the storage talisman paid any attention to her. After doing all this, everyone retreated a little further and caressed the jade talisman around his neck in the middle for the people of the Radiant Organization. He fondled it lovingly. Let Xiaoguan perform and let it continue to court talisman that you drew. As the audience, they just watched but asked curiously. Once they received the order from the little crown people with soul bodies, they could escape at any time. However, and not watch this liveliness of this half-soul body of hers. It wasn't something that could be casually watched. Now that you're watching the liveliness in the Chao estate, this is probably what they mean by grow tall. Next year, Arbor held her sword in one hand and lightly swiped it with her white hand, instantly covering the sword with a layer of sizzling electric current. Big sister's she pointed her long sword at Xiaoguang and coldly enunciated each word. Mo Lian nodded and laughed loudly. If you can't defeat me, you will certainly die a violent death. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines as they retreated a few steps out of fear. Defeat me or die. Chapter 5169. Arbor said coldly. Mo, look here. Arbor suddenly called out to her. The thunderclap sword emitted a light screeching sound as if it turned his head and stared at her. The plain-clothed, wooden, and expressionless little stoic extended her right hand and spread open her fingers. As the holy snowflakes trembled in her hand as if they had a mind of their own and formed a white sphere that continuously spun back and forth. No. The little stoic's eyes flickered. Was there something wrong with this crown princess's brain? And she flicked her slender hand backwards. If a normal person was exposed to be involved in the public behind her with the evil sect, they would definitely give a proper explanation. The entire rockery crumbled from the inside out. Actually didn't explain, shattering into a pile of mud and not only that, but she even openly provoked the holy maiden. She had already set up defensive walls around this area before she acted. Was this the reaction a normal person should have? Isolated and didn't attract other people's attention? Wasn't she living too recklessly? Mo's wooden eyes completely disregard what everyone present was thinking. And she subconsciously extended her hands and clapped with all her might. The holy maiden didn't seem to expect the little crown princess to have such an odd reaction. After being dumbfounded for several seconds, floated she reflexively took a step and extended her right hand accordingly. She gazed at this stoic-faced crown princess warily. Clusters of electricity floated back and forth on her palm. Didn't I already give you a choice? Even after a long while, she still couldn't fuse them into a sphere. Arbor kicked out a sandalwood stool in front of her, which directly crashed into the holy maiden's face. He asked the holy maiden, "Do you remember now?" and hastily turned around to dodge. Nodded again. But the little monkey standing behind them, she froze on the spot, but raised her hand to cover her face. There was no other reason other than the little stoic crown princess. She didn't know if it was her misconception, who was standing behind her like her older sister was an idiot. She nodded at everything she was asked. But when she did, she was still standing behind her, didn't do anything properly. The holy maiden patiently repeated the process the little crown princess until had long disappeared from her original position. She fused the clusters of electricity in her hand into a small ball of lightning and flew it over, exploding with considerable power from the inside out. The two were so close the little monkey excitedly jumped up and clapped repeatedly. However, she had just shrunk back a step when that crown princess spread her fingers at the little stoic with bright eyes and nodded repeatedly. From the looks of it, he was going to break her neck. She pointed at the small ball of lightning above her palm. The holy maiden shrieked and hastily covered herself with a defensive barrier.
He reached out
The
and
little
gently
crown
brushed
princess's
aside the
fingers
snowball
abruptly
in his
passed
hand.
through her defensive barrier.
That snowball rapidly elongated and abruptly transformed into an ice
The
bow.
crown princess's 5
A
slender
long ice
fingers
crystal
really did
arrowhead
pass through
condensed
the
in his
holy
right
maiden's
hand.
defensive barrier.
With a single arrow,
Just as her
the row
5
of ground in
fingers
front
were
of him
about to grab
exploded
the other
with a boom,
party's throat,
as if millions
she saw
of
a
arrowheads
strong
had
force
split
coming
open
from
at the
behind.
same time and exploded into
Zhao
pieces.
Guang was involuntarily pulled
Snow
back by a
explosion
fierce
spell
force and
explosive
fell to the ground
arrow.
with a loud bang.
9 heavens
He
lightning
rolled back
sword.
several times before
Still
barely
stabilizing his
Earthwood
body.
technique.
Arbor turned
Xiao
around
Mu
and
taught
saw a
Mo the
middle-aged
spirit
woman with a
division
cold
records
technique
techniques
that
that
she
she
had
had
learned
learned
and
and
mastered one move after
She had
another.
her arms crossed and was
She
looking at him
patiently
coldly.
demonstrated and practiced them
And
over and
Faye,
over
are
again
you
until
crazy?
she grasped them.
How can you treat
Lord
our saintess
Kong
like this?
and Lord Guangguang supported
The woman
their
in the
chins
green
with one
dress
hand
couldn't
and
help
sat
but
at the
scream.
stone table in a daze.
She rushed forward and
Wow.
helped the saintess up. What do you think the
Zhao Guang
benefactress
was
is
dragged
doing?
back by the middle-aged
She
woman,
wants to teach
and
a
his
second
body
version
fell
of her.
heavily to the ground.
It's obvious.
Just now, she
Lord
had hit her
Guangguang
waist.
nodded his little bald head.
Now, with the help of her
I
personal
really pity you
maidservant,
weak chicken
Han
humans.
Su, she stood up.
One fierce woman
Her
is
entire
already
face
very
was
scary,
distorted from
and
the
in the
pain.
future, there will be 2
Fei
fierce
Gu
women.
said coldly, if I
How are
didn't
you
do
going to
anything,
spend your days
the
like
saintess
this?
would already be a dead person.
Do you think should I recite a mind-clearing
Supper.
incantation for benefactress?
Xiaoye is here. What should we do
Kill
with
them
such
all.
a huge amount of hostility?
Kill them all, Arbor
As
said
he
coldly.
spoke, the slow-witted Mo
Everyone
held
felt
a
as
sword
if their
that
hearts were
flickered
being
with lightning
hammered
as
by
he
a
swiftly
huge hammer.
leaped down from the sky.
They couldn't
and his
help
sword
but shrink
seemed to
their
have slashed
necks.
apart the sky as he
Oh my
fiercely
God,
descended to
this
the ground.
is the result of provoking the little
Everything
crown
in this
princess.
area of the garden was
The
completely
little crown
destroyed.
princess was the kind of person
Everything
who could
was
go
reduced
berserk
to
at any
nothingness time
when the sword fell.
They couldn't afford to provoke
Amitba,
her.
crown
Flowers
princess,
and grass
please
are
wait a
all
moment.
living beings. The middle-aged woman,
Benefactresses,
Aunt Faye,
please don't cause
hurriedly
any more
said.
destruction.
You people
The
of
little
the holy
monk puffed
maiden
up
are
his
in
chubby
charge of
cheeks
everything
and nagged very solemnly.
How dare you meddle with our crown princess? You can't blame anyone for your own death. Chapter 5170. Little Monkey jumped up and applauded with all his might. Chapter
Although his
5181.
sister was a little stupid, she was
Aunt
born
Faye
with
got into a
outstanding
defensive
talent.
stance, and a
Even if her
spiritual aura
intelligence
appeared
was
in her
not high
hand
enough,
as she shouted,
her foundation
"Crown
was
princess,
still there.
Please think carefully.
In just half a day,
This is
she
your
was able
nephew's
to learn
100-day
so many
banquet.
moves. Could it
This
be
was
that you
not
want to
something
spill
an
your
ordinary
blood over the
person could
100-day
do.
banquet?
Arbor
The
kept
young
his
crown
thunder sword
princess
and took a
paused
step
for a
forward.
moment.
He
She
raised
turned
his
her gaze
hand
and
and saw the
patted
round,
Mo's shoulder.
chubby, and adorable
In the
little
future,
fellow in
if
Xiao
someone
Yao's
chases you
arms,
into the void,
my
the
sword will be
recklessly
the flashing
flashing not let
lightning
him
on the
off.
thunder crash sword slowly
Mo's
subsided.
mouth twitched, revealing
Arbor
a stiff
stared
smile.
coldly at the radiant saint
Little
and the
monk
others.
Kong Kong rested his chin
I'll
on
give
his
you 1
hands.
minute to pack up and get out of
He
my
turned
house
his head and
immediately.
looked at Prince Mo, who
In
was
the
sitting
future,
beside him.
if I see you swindling
Under
people
the golden
on the streets
sunlight,
again, that
don't blame
elegant
my
and
sword
handsome
for being
crown
merciless.
prince was also supporting his chin
We're here
with
to
his
look for
hands.
Tian Yun, before
He
the
was
radiant
staring
saint
at the
could
female
finish speaking.
benefactor.
Aunt Faye covered her mouth.
There seemed to be a light flashing
The latter
in his
cupped her
eyes.
hands towards the young
Your
crown
Highness,
princess with
Your
a serious
Highness,
expression.
Crown Princess.
Crown Princess,
Kai Xiu
please forgive
hurriedly
us.
walked along a small path
Radiant
and called
Saint
out
has no
while looking
intention
back
of
and
opposing
forth.
the Crown Princess.
Arbor waved his hand
Our
and
standpoint
removed the
is
defensive
actually
barrier.
the same as yours.
Kai Xiu
The
turned
young
her
crown
head and saw
princess
everyone
sneered.
appearing in front of her. The debts between
She
Tian Yun
also
and
saw
I
the
are still
ruins of the
vivid in our
rockery
minds.
and the flower bed. She opened her
We will
mouth
ask so
them to pay
wide
us
that
back
she could
one
stuff
by
a duck
one.
egg in it. As for you,
Heavens,
it has nothing
the
to do
crown
with me
prince
in the
and his
first
wife.
place. This early in the morning,
It's best
said
if
that
we
they were
don't
going to
interact
take
with
a
each
stroll
other.
in the garden. If any of you
They
insist
actually
on
raised a
provoking
corner
me,
of the garden
I will
to
let
the
you know
ground.
how red tomorrow's flowers
Let's
will
go.
be. Let's go back and
How
have
beautiful
lunch.
tomorrow's sunset will
Little
be.
Monkey jumped up and raised
Why
his
aren't you
little hand
screaming?
to cheer. The young
Mo
crown princess
floated
coldly
2 steps
shouted
forward
with a
and
stoic
tilted her head to
expression.
look forward.
Aunt Faye
She
took a
saw
deep
that
breath
under the
and
light of
nodded
the sun,
slightly. A beautiful woman in
Just
plain
as she was
clothes
about
was
to drag
walking
the
beside
radiant
the
saint
crown
away.
prince. She suddenly heard a
The
strange
fragrance of
roar
the
from
two
behind.
plants was like the background of a
They
painting.
all turned their heads to look,
In an
only
instant,
to see a
it was
rotten
as if
face
it could be
suddenly
frozen
appear
into
behind her.
eternity and could never be
The
forgotten.
guests who saw the corpse puppet's
Friend.
rotting face screamed in
2
unison
words
and
floated
retreated
in
in
her
panic.
heart.
Although
Close
they were
friend.
still very far away from
After
the
the
corpse
song
puppet
ended,
and the arched
the
door,
leaves in the garden
corpse
rustled
puppet's
down.
face really gave everyone
The
a
woman
fright.
left the zither and stood up
Suddenly
to bow to the
seeing
roof
such
in
a
front
thing,
of her.
no one would be in a good
She
mood.
stood there silently for a long
Especially
time.
when that thing actually
For a
pounced
long
forward
time,
and wrapped
there
itself
was no
around a
sound
member
in the
of the
garden.
radiant light. Only the cold
bright white-light female
disciple
screamed in fright.
Her
The
face
woman
almost
in thin
sticking to the
clothes
corpse
slightly
puppet.
lowered her head.
The madams and young
She did not
misses
make any
almost
sound
fainted when they saw this scene.
until an unknown amount
Putting
of time
themselves
later,
in their shoes,
a faint voice
if it was
came
their
from the
true
roof.
body that was in close
"You
contact
can
with
leave."
this corpse puppet, they
Only
would be
then
scared
did
to
the
death
woman
he could
raise
not
her
help
head
but
slightly and
sympathize
call
with that
out,
female
"Young
disciple of the
master."
bright light school.
Young Master
This
Omega
woman
Katoka
looked to be in her
glanced at
early
coldly.
20s, yet she was bitten
Just
by a
this
corpse
icy
puppet.
glare made Miss Rand
Her
swallow
life
her
was
words.
over.
How
After
pitiful.
bowing,
he turned around and left the garden.
Pull this thing away.
Qin Xian lay on the eaves and looked up at the dim starry sky with a cold face. Holding a wine pot in one hand, more than 10 male and female disciples of the radiant light sect took out unique iron hooks from their inner worlds and threw them out in unison, hooking the corpse puppet from all directions. I received the exact information today. The iron hook pierced through the skeleton's limbs. That king of Duoluo is completely useless now. Because the corpse puppet's I don't know if he's gone crazy or if he's lost his mind. It finally let go of the woman it was gnawing on. He can't be used anymore. Oh my God. It's many of the men we sent out have been encircled by the crown prince's men in the past 2 days. And there have been many casualties. Everyone looked over and saw that the radiant light female disciple who was being gnawed on by the corpse puppet just now was lying on the ground on the verge of death. In the end, the decision she made herself even more unhappy. It looked like she was about to toss the wine pot and flipped over to sit up. He drew a long sword with one hand and flew out of the room. Chapter 51. He brandished his sword in the room to vent the anger in his heart. From beginning to end, the young crown princess merely watched the scene with a detached eye. What do you think our chances of success are? Now that he saw the female disciple lying on the ground with her mouth slightly open, there's a chance if she was having difficulty breathing. But the ancestor hasn't given the order. At her coldly. His theory of heavenly fortune is already unrealistic. It's the heavenly fortune hall's people who brought the zombies here. A radiant light disciple unsheathed the sword at his waist and pointed it at the innocent-looking red-clothed man, Chapter 5171. Kill him. Kill this heavenly fortune hall's head. The heavenly fate has been exposed. It's him. And several underground bases have been destroyed. Dugaling impatiently glanced at the young crown princess and said with an aggrieved expression, "We will be defeated one by one sooner or later. I really didn't bring Omega her here. Kotoku young master stabbed the camphor tree in front of him, came here leaving a deep to deliver a gift on the tree. If I brought this young master wants to, I'll immediately suffer heavenly punishment of being struck by lightning." Dugaling raised 3 fingers above his head and swore with conviction. Omega Kotoku young master sneered and put away the sword in his hand, then shifted his gaze to that female disciple. He turned to look at Dugaling and said indifferently, "Come, ancestor is old in the end. This princess has changed her mind. Are no longer suitable due to the changes in the times. These people repeatedly came to her residence to cause trouble." He raised his head and covered his eyes with one hand. If she didn't deal with them on the streets, then anyone could come to her Chiao estate to cause trouble in the future. Just there like really many wasn't things, the slightest if you don't fight for them and fight for them, you won't be able to get them even if they're placed in front of you. That she really didn't have any interest in continuing to watch. Is rumored to be in the final stage of development. If you wanted her to explain Omega things to others, young it would take a lot of effort. Flashed with a trace of ruthlessness. She didn't even want to think about it. Go and get one. She simply didn't waste words with you when she gave orders. That person inherited the power of the ancient Mo Yen. The radiant light holy maiden on external help but panic. How can we defeat him? And she vigilantly stared at Xiao. Dugaling hurriedly bowed and said, who were approaching step by step. This mutated pill was no joke. I'm warning you. Once Crown Princess, the young master might not have a high chance, with the heavenly fortune, but there was a 1 in 10,000 chance that he would turn into a corpse puppet. The radiant light holy maiden said angrily. Of course, with the young master's talent, he didn't believe that would master come to the Chiao estate to deliver gifts. The young master would awaken a special ability. You should give everyone an explanation. Look at little 5. Isn't he doing well now? I see that you two have a good relationship. Omega Kotoku young master smiled faintly. Don't tell me that you two are close friends. Say, since we're close to him, the holy maiden of light, why don't we try it first? Her eyes under the veil looked very called out helplessly. Aunt Fei Qin Xian raised his hand just as she was about to say something and turned to walk out of the garden. The green-dressed maidservant Han Su rushed forward and shouted, "I want to see a level 5 please take out the holy fruit and save our suffering sisters." Was silent for a moment. As soon as she finished speaking, he didn't call out to him and watched him all knelt down, throwing their iron hooks on the ground and throwing their weapons aside. Your Highness, formed a circle and kowtowed to the bright light holy maiden. When Kai Xiu saw the crown prince step through the door, save our suffering brothers went up to greet him. She hurriedly said in a small voice, "This afternoon, after the crown princess received a message from the mechanical bird, at each other in dismay, she has been sulking not knowing what was going on." Mo Lian secretly scolded her father, the female disciple of the radiant sect who was lying on the ground, had been bitten study to discuss this and that endlessly. Why were these people kneeling on the ground and praying to their holy maiden to save her? He hastily ran inside. Everyone knew that after being beaten by a zombie and entered the inner hall, there was a 10% chance that they would turn into a monster. He saw the little stoic sitting on the bed with a fuming expression. If there really was a medicine in this world that could save people bitten by a zombie, then this monster wouldn't seem so nervously for no reason. However, they saw that the person looking at them was a compassionate expression. She sighed and said, he had offended his wife brothers and sisters of bright light. This morning, you have devoted yourselves to the cause of exterminating his wife was sleeping soundly and secretly kissed her twice. As the radiant sex holy maiden, have been discovered. I will not let my brothers and sisters bleed in vain and die in vain. When Arbor looked up, as long as there is a glimmer of hope to save, she leaned against the shelf of treasures next to the door. She dawdled and didn't come forward, and her 2 black, beady eyes were looking at him with an aggrieved expression. Chapter 5183. You're back. The little fellow called out gracious, the saintess is gracious.
The surrounding
hastily
fools
ran
kneeling
over
and
and scooped her
kowtowing,
into his arms,
creating a ruckus at the Chao estate's
He had an
entrance.
expression of admitting his mistake.
The cold smile on Arbor's face tightened even more.
Don't hit the pillow.
When Prince Mo
This
entered,
husband came
he
back
initially
late
thought
today.
that he had entered the wrong door.
Hit me hard.
He didn't know what these demons
This husband
and
will
ghosts at the
definitely
entrance
come
were
back
singing,
on time tomorrow.
but they completely blocked his words.
Arbor glanced
Wife,
at him
this husband
speechlessly.
has returned late. Wife, what's going on? What's going on? Prince Mo stepped through the door, his gaze coldly sweeping over the faces of all the guests.
Chapter 5172.
When everyone saw that this crown prince had arrived,
serious expression
they hurriedly
as if he was
knelt and
asking to be
kowtowed,
hammered was
calling
both
out,
amusing
Your
and
Highness
infuriating.
and Crown Prince.
Arbor looked down at the
There
pillow
was even
on
a
his
very
lap.
quick-witted official who
You
very
think it's
nimbly
you?
explained, Your
What
Highness,
did this guy do
none
to
of
have
us here
such a guilty
caused any
conscience?
trouble.
Did
These
he think
people at the
Jojo was
entrance were
hammering
brought
a
here by
lotus as soon as
Xiaoguang,
he stepped
and
in?
that female immortal who
Could
is
it
being
be that he
kowtowed
had really
to
done
was the
something
saintess of
wrong?
Xiaoguang, Yuan
What
Maui.
did you do today?
What a joke.
I didn't do
If
anything.
the great crown prince remembered them,
Mo Lian
how could they have
quickly
any
looked
good
at his
days
wife
in the future?
magnanimously and reached out to
They
grab
had to
her small
explain the
hand,
situation
rubbing
clearly.
it against his chest.
They had completely
Jojo,
obediently come
feel
to
it
the
if you
banquet
don't
to
believe
present
me.
gifts and absolutely didn't
Hubby's
have
heart
any
is
other
beating
intentions,
passionately for
nor
you.
did they dare to have any
I
other
don't dare to
intention.
deceive you in the slightest.
If this saintess of Xiaoguang
Arbor's
hadn't
mouth
barged
twitched,
in with people,
and he
the
expressionlessly
banquet would
pulled
still
back
be
his
fine.
hand and pounded the pillow.
Yes.
Did you know?
Your Highness the Crown Prince
That
is
person
wise.
ran away.
It was indeed the
Who
saintess
ran
of
away?
Xiaoguang's sudden arrival that
Mu
caused
Qingya,
such a mess
Huang
at the
He
entrance.
used a mechanical bird to send me
Wife.
a message today,
Prince
saying that
Mo
she was
hurriedly
rescued by
grasped his
someone.
wife's small hand.
Snow Island has
When he
also
saw
been
his
turned
wife's
into a mess
expression,
by someone.
his handsome face immediately
It looks like
stiffened,
I've reached the
and
end
he
of my
angrily
days as the
questioned,
island
who
master.
made the crown princess angry?
Mo Lian,
His
wife
wife
was
was angry
stoic
at him
face
for
puffed
reaching
up in
the end of
anger.
his days as the island
Who
master.
actually
But
dared
it
to
turned
make
out
his
she
wife
wasn't
angry
angry
on
at
the
him
day
for
of the
returning
100-day
late.
banquet?
Who saved
They were simply
Mu Qingya?
tired of living.
Does Huang He know?
Without waiting for Kai Xiu
Huang
to
He sent a
speak,
message
the
saying that
fastest
those people
aristocratic
didn't act
madam
like
on the
normal
side
people.
hastily explained.
They
Reporting
all
to your
seem to be
Highness the
speed
Crown
superhumans.
Prince.
This really isn't a matter
They didn't
of us
directly
guests
clash
causing
with
trouble.
the island's army.
Originally,
Instead,
we were all
they
properly
used a surprise
celebrating the
attack
birthday
to
of the
directly
Chao
rescue
Estate's
her
little
and then
young
retreated.
master. The
Who
little
knew that
stoic
Tianyun
fumed.
would actually send some hall
Although our
master
people
to
killed
congratulate
several
us.
speed superhumans,
Then
we
the
didn't
holy
have time
maiden
to
of
conduct
Xiaoguang
a large
brought
people
people
in
search.
and accused the crown
This
princess
group
of
of
having a
people
close
came quickly
relationship
and
with the
retreated
hall
even
master of the
faster.
Heavenly Fate Hall.
They left after
She
rescuing
must be
her.
involved with the Heavenly Fate
Didn't you
Hall.
already order Huang He to get
This
rid of
madam
this
was
woman?
very eloquent.
Mo Lian
In
couldn't
just a
help
few
but be stunned when he
sentences,
recalled
she
this
had
matter.
recounted the whole story,
Huang
and all
He
the
said there
guests
was some
present
progress
nodded their
on the
heads.
antidote.
I originally wanted to try it out
really
on
has
Mu
nothing
Qingya
to do with
again.
us.
But who knew? Arbor
Your
clenched
Highness,
his fist.
it's him.
But with
It's
her
them.
broken body, she
They
probably
made the crown
won't live
princess
for long,
so
even
angry
if
that
she's
she couldn't
rescued.
speak.
I just
This
don't
is really
understand what
devoid of
Tianyun
conscience.
is after. The guests
As far as I
cursed
know,
at the same time.
Tianyun will never save
Not
a
only
useless
did
person.
these people cause trouble at the
So
Chao
this Mu
Estate's
Qingya
young
should be
master's
useful in some
100-day
way.
celebration, they
But
even
Huang
gave
He
two
also
bloody
said that
fingers
Mu
to the
Qingya's
crown
body is
princess.
strange.
Not only
Several
that,
of the corpse
he even gave
puppets
a
that had
corpse
been used
puppet
to
to the
test the
Chao
medicine
Estate's
had
young
already
master.
died.
That's
Mu
insane.
Qingya, on the other hand,
The
has
crown
tried
prince
several
grew
kinds of
angrier
antidotes
as he
and
listened,
taken no
and
less than
smoke
100
seemed to be
kinds of
coming out of
medicines.
his head.
But she's still alive.
Yuba, capture
That
these
means
people
Mu
for us.
Qingya isn't just a mutant with
This
a special
crown prince
ability.
wants these people to know one
Mo
thing.
Lian took over Arbor's
Anyone who
words
comes
and
to the
continued
Chao
to
estate
analyze,
to cause
or
trouble must
perhaps
die.
This Mu Qingya has
They
taken
really
some
had
high-level
nothing better to
mutated
do,
pills from
coming to his
Tianyun.
wife's family to cause
Could
trouble.
her body be reinventing
His
itself
wife
in
was
ways
already
we don't know
suffering
about?
so much.
Arbor was shocked.
She was pregnant, yet she
He
still
sat
had
up
to be
straight and
tormented by
carefully
these considered
bastards.
Mo Lian's words.
They deserve to die.
He nodded solemnly.
Wait.
So she might not die immediately.
The holy
As long
maiden
as
of
this body
Xiaoguang
doesn't
couldn't
collapse,
help but cry out.
maybe it can make a comeback.
What was going on?
This is only one of our
Why did the
inferences,
divine
so it
province's
might not be
crown prince
completely
suddenly
correct.
return?
Mo Lian held her hand comfortingly. After all, if Tianyun can really produce this kind of medicine that
Chapter
can continuously
5184.
refine the human body by force,
Didn't they come
it
to
can
an
create
agreement
even
that
more
they would
monsters
find
that
someone
can't
to
be
delay the
killed?
crown prince so that he wouldn't
It's
be able to
impossible
return
for
in
it
a
to
short
continue
period of
lying
time.
dormant. They had
At
to
this
try their
point,
best
the
to
two
finish
looked
this
at each
show
other
in
and
the shortest
suddenly
amount
said,
of time
"We
possible.
have to have Huang He and the others
But what
come
was
back
going
as
on
soon
now?
as possible."
How could they continue with this show? The crown prince had already appeared,
fired, so how could they continue with this show? The Saintess of Bright Light was anxious and resentful. Chapter 5173. She quickly shook off the hand of one of the hidden guards and continued, no matter what, Your Highness, please let us save people. She wasn't sure what this heavenly fate wanted to do. The show had to go on, and it had to go on. What effect would kidnapping Muchinya have on the big picture? It would be meaningless for them to come here today. Or was it that Muchinya actually had a secret they didn't know about? We have to save them immediately. Perhaps her body could be modified again. These freaking guests were all freaks. Shook her head. They clearly knew what the truth thinking too much and they had personally witnessed the close relationship between the Crown Prince back and the head of the Tianyun Hall. How's Mr.
But
Sue's
now,
research
in front
going
of
at
the
the
Crown
small
Prince,
base in Baywang
they only
Valley?
knew how to push the bright light
Arbor
out
thought
as a
of this and
scapegoat.
hesitated for a moment
They
before
didn't
saying,
talk about anything
"Why don't we
else,
invite Mr.
but said
Sue
that the
and the
bright
others
light
back
had
as
angered
well.
the Crown Princess.
We can
So they
discuss it
hurriedly
with
tried to
Huang He
distance
and the others
themselves
and
from the
see
bright
if the
light.
two sides can piece
Could
together
these
useful
people be
information
anyone
to make
shameless?
progress in research."
The Saintess of Bright
Mo
Light
Lien
clenched her
nodded
teeth.
solemnly.
She
I
didn't
was
expect
also
that
thinking
these
the
people
same
from
thing.
the aristocratic families
I'll
and
have
the
someone
officials were
inform
all
Mr.
the same.
Sue and the others to set
They
off
didn't dare to
immediately
go
and join
against
us
the little
here.
Crown Princess.
When
So
the
they
time
pushed the
comes,
bright light
let
out
Mr.
as
Sue and
scapegoats.
Huang He discuss what to do
Shameless
next.
to the extreme.
Arbor nodded.
Take them away. We can have the people
Mo
who killed the
Lien
heavenly
waved his
fate
hand
come back in
impatiently,
batches.
and more hidden guards
Arrange for
bounced
them to
out
be
from the
gathered at
four-sided
Duan
horn
Yu's
canopy,
place first,
forcibly expelling the
We'll
radiant
see when
light
the time
group of
comes.
people.
Previously,
The Saintess of
the
Bright
heavenly
Light and the
fates
others
people
struggled and
attacked
shouted,
Sangzhou.
"What are you
so
trying
they
to
didn't
do?
know what they would do next.
Are you not even giving us
Arbor
a chance
hoped
to
that
save
they could
people?
deal with the heavenly fate
Let
again
go,
while ensuring
let go,
everyone's safety.
bastards. There shouldn't
Don't
be
use
much
your
time
status
left
and
for them
power
to
to bully
use.
good people like us.
The heavenly fate's recent
Ah.
actions all indicated
Ah.
that they might not be far
The
from a
group was beaten
large-scale
to the ground
outbreak.
by the dark court guards
Have
led
every
by
city
Hades
prepare
Ba,
for security.
and they struggled with all their might.
Arbor said expressionlessly.
As the two sides were in a
Pay
stalemate,
special
the
attention to
Saintess of
protecting
Bright
the water
Light struggled to
sources.
climb out of the crowd.
Okay.
She rushed
The
to the
people
side
of
of
the
the
city
Bright
defense
Light's
team
female
have to
disciple
patrol
who was
24
lying on the
hours a
ground on
day
the verge
without
of
stopping.
death.
She
This is
lifted her head
especially
with
true
one
for
trembling
those who are
hand,
transmitting
her
messages
face full
and
of setting up
tears.
defenses on the drum towers.
Just as a secret guard rushed up,
Every defense
the Saintess
point
of
has
Light
to be
suddenly
under
raised
constant
her hand
surveillance
and
every
revealed a
minute.
small white jade
Prince
porcelain
Mo
bottle
nodded
in front of
repeatedly.
everyone.
Have
She
His
shouted,
Majesty give
"I
the
have a
order
way
to
to
cancel
save this
all
sister who was
unnecessary
bitten by the
gatherings."
zombie." Arbor
I
said
really
coldly,
need a way.
"Have those Orioles and
Arbor
Swallows
stared
stay at
coldly
home
at the woman
peacefully
in
and
front of
don't
him
cause
with
a
a gloomy
gloomy
expression.
expression.
If
They
they
have
have
nothing
nothing
to
to
do,
also knew
gather
that her
them and
acting
go
was
dig a
quite
moat or
stiff.
build a wall or something.
According to reason,
She
if
was
these
not a
shadow guards
good-natured
hadn't
person,
come up to disturb the
if
situation,
she was provoked,
it should have
she
been the
would not
various
give face
disciples
to
of
anyone.
Zhao Guang crying bitterly
If he
and
told
begging
you to
her
dig a
save
canal,
his sister.
you had to dig it.
Then,
She
if
thought
he
about
told you
it
to
again
build
and
a
again,
wall,
you had to build it.
Considering the big picture,
Don't even talk
she
about a
reluctantly
delicate
took
young
out
lady.
the porcelain bottle to save
Even
him.
if the heavenly king himself
But now,
came, you
after
had to
being
build
beaten
it
up
when
by these
Jojo
people,
told you to.
she had no choice but
All
to
right,
jump to the
my
last
wife.
step.
I will
She raised
explain
the
everything
porcelain
to our
bottle in
father.
her hand and shouted.
Prince Mo smiled
Everyone's
and nodded.
gaze was naturally
He
focused on
thought
the
to
porcelain
himself,
bottle in
"My
her
wife
hand.
is really awesome."
The Saintess of Bright
She's
Light
so
took a deep
comprehensive in
breath and
everything
poured
she
out a pure
considers.
green crystal fruit from
In
the
this
bottle.
way,
The workers
she
digging
held
the
it in her
canals and
hand
building
and
the
showed it to
defensive
everyone.
walls would definitely not run
This
out.
is the one and only holy
The
fruit
rear
in
could
the
be
world.
replenished at any time.
It's the spirit of all
The
trees.
next day,
the holy
a protective
tree.
notice was posted in
The
the central
fruit that it
square.
bears.
The defense
can
level
cure
of
all
Dragon
poisons
Flame
in the
City
world,
had been raised
including
to the highest
zombie
level.
poison.
Entering
Following
and
the
exiting the
Saintess
city
of
gates
Radiant
had to be
Lights every
checked,
word,
and the
Xiao
transmission
Mu's
of
eyes
messages had
instantly
also
turned
begun
into
to
two
become
intense,
tense.
deep pools.
More people were assigned to guard the water source area of the entire city. A smokeless war had been quietly arranged
Chapter
without anyone knowing about it.
5185.
On the
This
other
holy
side,
maiden of
Huang He
Zhaoguang
gathered a
actually
group of
said that her
alchemists on
porcelain
the
bottle
snowy
contained
island
holy
and led
fruit.
them to board a large ship.
She really couldn't help but
He
ask
turned
her
his
a
head
thing
and
or
glanced
two.
at the island they had
If
stayed
the
on
holy
for many
tree
days.
of Allwood was in the hands of this
If there
holy
were no
maiden of
accidents,
light,
then
what
return
was
to
Jojo
Dragon
and her
Flame
star
City
domain?
this time would be the day
If
when
the
the
holy
battle with
maiden
the
of
Heavenly
light was
Fate
the one who
Empire was
controlled the
imminent,
holy wood,
then what was the origin of the holy wood that Sir Jojo comprehended? What a joke. This holy maiden of light actually came to her and said that she had a holy fruit. Chapter
The green
5174.
fruit that she took out was indeed
If I
somewhat
don't live,
similar to the
you
holy
will die.
fruit that Qiuqiu gave her.
Life and death were not
However,
in anyone's
the
hands.
fruit that Qiuqiu gave her was furry and
we have
emerald
already
green.
followed your orders and removed
The one
all
that
the
the holy
resources
maiden
on
of
the
light
island.
took out was as smooth as
Do you
a
want to
mirror.
burn it? Although
Burn
it was
it.
green, it didn't give
Fairy
off the
Yellow
feeling
craned
that
it
it
was
silently
full of
glanced
vitality.
at the snowy island.
Arbor
Her
stared
gaze landing on
coldly
a
at the
wooden
holy
plaque
maiden
in front
of
of the
light,
island, who was kneeling on one knee
Countless
on the
lines
ground.
of fire flew with the wind
Her
and
eyes
landed
seemed
on
to
the
freeze
snowy
with
island,
ice,
instantly igniting
At
the
this
entire
moment,
island.
everyone on the scene had a
Set
very
off.
surprised expression on their
Fairy
faces
Yellow
as they
Crane
whispered to
raised
each
her
other.
hand and shouted.
Arbor vaguely heard
the large
some people
ship
say,
set sail
I've
and
heard from a
sailed into the
madam that forgotten
holy
river
maiden
3
of
months
light has
later.
comprehended the power of the
The
holy
entire
wood of the
Qiao
5
residence
spirit
was filled
origins.
with jubilation.
She's very capable.
All the servants were busy inside and outside for the little
I heard that
tiger's
she can summon the
100th day
holy
banquet.
wood and use the vitality
Arbor
of the
returned
holy
to the
wood's
Qiao
origin
residence
to
with
revive
Prince
the
Mo
dead.
yesterday,
Planning
as
to
long
stay
as
at
someone
home for a
swallows
while.
a holy fruit.
No matter how
Recently,
sick
her
they are,
stomach was
they can
growing
immediately
rapidly,
come back to
and her
life.
pregnancy was becoming more
Is that
obvious.
so?
Mother saw that
that's
her
really
stomach
too
was so
amazing.
big and nervously followed her
If that's
around
the
all
case,
day, even
worried
the king
that
of
she
hell
would bump
won't be
into
able to
something.
snatch someone from the holy
However,
maiden. She didn't have any
If
problems.
that's the case,
then isn't
she
she
could
more
still walk
powerful
as
than
if
if
she
she was
was
flying, jump up and down,
Isn't that so?
jump over walls, and
Just
flip
as everyone
tiles
was
without any
whispering,
problems.
A burst of joyous laughter
She was the
suddenly
clearest
erupted
about her
beside
own
the
body.
holy maiden of light.
She checked her pulse
He's
3
alive.
times a day, and every
He's
time,
alive.
she was very healthy and
He's
normal.
alive.
The key
Thank
was that there
God.
was still no reaction.
Our
and
sister
she
has
could
finally
come back to life. Counting the days,
The disciples
she
of the
reckoned
Holy
that she would
Maiden
be
of
able to
Light
meet
knelt
baby
down
Mo
again,
in
and as if
another
they were
3
worshipping
months.
a miracle.
Thinking of this,
They prostrated
she felt
themselves
happy
on the
for no
ground and
reason.
muttered,
The Holy Maiden's
Recently,
great kindness
her
will
husband
never
was
be
so
forgotten.
busy that he couldn't even see the
Saintess,
sky and earth.
I will never forget your kindness.
Day and night,
He was busy
Arbor
dealing
looked
with the
on coldly
information
from the
gathered
side,
from all over
watching
the world.
these people cry and laugh
Many
as they
small
put on such a
fortifications
show.
were constantly harassed
There was not
by
the
small
slightest
forces
extra
of the
expression
heavenly
on his
fate
face.
empire.
Like
Jojo,
probing,
like provocation,
Wei Ziqing
there
had
weren't
a
any
perplexed
obvious
look on her
movements,
face as she
but
walked
they
to
were
her
always
side
like
and
rats
asked
in a
in a
low
gutter.
voice. What
From
are they
time
doing?
to time,
They would crawl out and
it's
make a
just
bunch
an
of
act.
noises.
Mother,
It was
just
very
take
annoying.
it as a joke.
In addition,
Wei
a
Ziqing couldn't
medium-sized
help but
matter
stare
also
blankly.
happened in the 3 continents
But
recently.
why are they acting in front of our
There was an
Chao
organization
estate?
called Bright Light
This was
that was
exactly
rapidly
what
rising
Arbor
in
wanted to
various
know.
large cities in the 3
However,
continents. Looking at the scene in front
especially
of her,
in the
she
capital
thought that she
cities
could
of the
guess a
3
thing or
continents.
2. They had established
Today,
quite a reputation
her little
and
nephew
won over
was
the
holding
faith
a
of many
100th
people.
day banquet.
And
It
those
was
who had
said
come
that
to
this
the Chao
organization
estate
were
were
all
all
famous
famous
in teaching the
officials,
general
nobles,
public how to
and
deal with the
prominent
heavenly
families
fate
in the
empire.
city.
With
The
Zhaoguang
Zhaoguang
doing such a
organization
thing at
worshipped
their
an
doorstep,
omnipotent Holy
it was
Maiden.
bound to raise the
Why
reputation of the
not?
entire organization.
Hearing the 2 words Holy
He wanted to
Maiden,
use their
Arbor
family
felt
as
like
a
she had
stepping
eaten a
stone to
fly.
climb up
Holy
the
Maiden
social
or
ladder.
Holy Maiden.
It was a good
None
idea,
of them seemed to
but
be good
unfortunately
people.
it also depended on
She
whether the
once
little
again
crown
thought of the
princess
saintess
would
of
give
the
them
Sun
face.
Moon Temple.
What are you still standing there for?
She had escaped so quickly.
What's there to see in such a fake show?
Ever since Du Chunjiang left,
Mo
it
Lian
was as
said
if she had
impatiently.
disappeared from the face of the earth.
Aren't you going to take them all down?
She had not been seen again.
Hearing this,
Yuba
now
and the
that he
rest
thought
did not
about
hesitate.
it, he missed it quite a bit.
They hurriedly pounced
Arbor
forward and
thought to
started
himself
punching
as the
and
corners
kicking.
of his mouth curled up
They
into
did
a
not
cold
care
arc
if they
bright
caught
light.
the people of Zhaoguang.
Using light to
No
illuminate
matter
the
if they were
entire
men
earth.
or women, they would beat
Crown
them up
Princess,
first.
Crown Princess,
The Holy
Crown
Maiden of
Princess,
Light and the rest were all stunned.
Kai Xiu excitedly rushed in
Especially
from
this
outside
Holy
and
Maiden.
said with a happy face,
She
"Young
really did not
Master
expect
Duanmu,
to be
young
treated
Miss
like
Qi,
this.
and the others have returned." Arbor stood up and walked out quickly. Duanmu Qing and
Chapter
the others had come out of
5186.
seclusion a few days ago. She had already put
They
in
had
so
all
much
gone
effort
to the
put
western
on such an
outskirts
eastern peak
so how
mountain
could
to
this
undergo
crown
the
prince
heavenly
still be
punishment.
so unreasonable?
After Duanmu
Didn't he
Qing
see that
consumed
the
the holy
holy
fruit,
she
he
took
had been
out
absorbing
saved
the
the
power
female
of the
disciple
holy
on the
fruit
brink of
drop
death
by
in front
drop.
of everyone's eyes?
He had been in seclusion
Didn't he
in the
know what
star
this
field
meant?
for so long,
This
and he had
meant that
broken
she,
through to the 8th level of
the
God
saintess
Master.
of bright light, could revive
His
the dead
talent
and
was
resolve
indeed
the
series
shocking.
of disasters that
As for
Tianyun had
Qi
created.
Xianxian and the others,
She
they
could
had
save
all
those
stepped
normal
onto the
people
steps
who
of
had been
God
infected
realm
by
experts
corpse
and
poison.
rushed to the East Peak Mountain
As
to
long as she
experience
wanted,
the 5
as
spirits
long as she was
reincarnation.
willing, that entire bright light could save even more people from the abyss of suffering in the future. As the crown prince of the divine
the
province,
Dou family head,
how could he be
who
so
lived near the
short-sighted?
East Peak Mountain, was
Just
scared out
because
of his
of that
wits.
little crown princess,
The
he could
5
disregard
spirits
the country's
reincarnation
important tribulation seemed to be free.
How could he be so selfish
It was as
and
if
let
it was
down the
crazy
trust of
and
the
kept
divine
descending on the
province's
East Peak
citizens and
Mountain.
his ancestors?
When the saintess of bright light thought of this, she suddenly felt a pain in her head. Someone had actually pressed her head down and slapped her into kneeling on the ground. "You, what are you doing?" Chapter 51. The saintess flew into a rage, and
It
her
was to
body
the extent
couldn't help
that
but
after
twist
several
back and
days,
forth in
half
their
of the
hands.
entire
East Peak Mountain was
You.
flattened by the heavenly lightning and heavenly fire tribulation.
Stop slapping.
The entire
Stop
Dou family
slapping.
simply wanted to cry,
How
but
could
had
the
no
saintess
tears.
of bright light be a match for the
They
Court
really
guards
didn't
after
expect
her
one
head
was
was slapped
cultivation
several
realms
times
to
in
also
succession.
jump so quickly.
Together with Aunt
After
Faye and
eating
the
the
rest,
holy fruit,
they were all
it was
subdued
as
by
if
the
he was
hidden
insisted
guards
on
on
the
the
spot
gods.
and forced to kneel on the ground
Arbor
in
cursed
2 obedient
inwardly,
rows.
but her footsteps continued to
Speak.
quicken, and she swiftly
Arbor
ran
spoke
out of the
faintly
door.
as he stared at the saintess
Qi
of bright light
Xuanchuan's
kneeling
group
at the
of
very
7
front
strode
and
into the
asked,
court and
"Where did you
immediately
place the
saw
holy
the little
fragment?"
stoic dashing toward them with
This
a big
saintess
belly.
of bright light was truly
Everyone
quite
was
an
scared
interesting
out of their
person.
wits by her, and they
She
hastily
came to the door
sprinted
herself
forward.
and allowed the sapling
They
Chocho
surrounded
to
her and
sense a bit of the
clamored,
power
"Jojo,
of the holy wood in
why
her
are you
body."
running?
Indeed,
Why are you running
the
so
saintess
fast?
of bright light didn't lie.
You can't run right now.
She had indeed used the power
It's
of the
fine.
spirit of the
It's
holy
fine.
wood.
Arbor waved
Unfortunately,
her hand and
it wasn't as she
reflexively
had
rubbed
boasted
her belly
that she had comprehended
You
the
guys
power
don't
of the
know,
wood spirit's
but sometimes
origin
when
on
I'm
her
too
own.
lazy to move,
Just
baby
like how
Mo
the holy
will
water
even urge
urged
me
me
to
to come
borrow
out
the
and
power of the
exercise.
holy water back then.
Everyone looked at
saintess was
her with
also
indescribable
the same.
expressions.
Borrowing and comprehending
true.
on one's own were definitely
Arbor nodded
completely
and
different.
rubbed her belly in all seriousness.
Chocho told her through divine
Baby
sense that
Imo
the Hollywood
isn't like his
fragment
dad.
was not with the saintess of light.
He's
at the
very
moment.
obedient.
Its aura was
Xian
faintly discernible,
couldn't help but
so it
giggle
should have
when
been
she
hidden
saw
by
her
the
serious
scheming
expression.
Saintess. She pulled her
I don't
small
understand
hand
what
and
you're
said,
talking about.
Aya, my Chiao.
Saintess
It's like
Zhao
several
Guang's
years
heart
have passed since we
slightly.
parted.
She
I
opened
think
her
you've
mouth
really
and
changed
said
a
this.
lot.
You
Arbor
guys
didn't
have
waste
been in
any
the
more
star
words
domain
with
for
her
so
and shot a
long.
look at Yuba.
It's been
The
several
latter
months,
nodded and
right?
lifted the bright light holy
According to
maiden
the
up.
time flow 12 times
He called out
faster.
to his brothers
Isn't it
of the
several
nether
years
court
since we
since to
parted?
take down the men and women
Qi
of the bright
Xian
light holy
quickly
maiden
nodded
and
and
dragged
pulled
them
her
out of the
small
door.
hand,
saying,
"From
"Don't
the looks
worry,
of it,
we
there
won't
was
go
an
anywhere
80%
after
chance
this."
that everyone here was going
The
to be
little
in
girl
prison."
looked at her with a grin.
Only then did those people
"We'll just
from
wait for
Xiaoguang
baby
shout
Mo
out
to
in
be
panic.
born. Don't.
I want to hug my eldest
Your
nephew
Highness,
as soon as
Crown
possible.
Princess.
Okay.
We are.
When
we are
Wei
Xiaoguang's
Ziqin
people.
entered,
No,
she happened
not
to see a group of young
Tianyang's.
men and women chatting
That's
and laughing
right,
around
Your
her precious
Highness the
daughter.
Crown Prince.
We are the
She
sects
quickly
that are
walked
fighting
up
against
and
the
said with a
heavenly
smile,
fate together with
"Jojo,
the people of the
your
divine
friends,
land."
Qi Xianxian
You
turned
can't
around
do this
and greeted
to
with a
us.
smile.
Hello,
There are only
Auntie.
so many of us for our holy
Hello,
fruit.
Auntie. You can't arrest
Hello,
us.
hello.
You can't drag us into prison.
Wei Ziqin grinned from ear
That's
to
right.
ear.
That's right. Since your friends
We
are
are the
here,
saintess.
let's sit down together.
I.O.
Due to the recent
The
ban
noise was
issued by the
quickly
imperial
silenced by a
court,
few kicks
no one
from the
dared to go
underworld
out for
court guards.
gatherings or meals. The hidden guards
The
didn't
various
care whether
families
they were
would
making a
secretly
fuss
hold
or
a
not.
banquet in their own mansions so
After
that their
all,
families
they
could
had
gather
received
together
His
to
Highness the
celebrate.
Crown Prince's orders and
The
only
Qiao
cared about
residents
dragging them
originally
out.
wanted to do the same.
Qiuqiu's last
They wanted
fragment
to
is
hold a
related
low-key
to this 100th day banquet and
She
celebrate
can't
with
die
their
for
own
now.
family members. Unfortunately, they couldn't resist the attentions of the relatives of the officials inside and outside the imperial court, as well as the wives
Chapter
of the aristocratic
5187.
families.
Many
Moreover,
honored guests
the origins
came
of this
uninvited,
woman and
and
her
the ceremonial
organization were
carriages
quite
sped away
suspicious.
like a wisp of smoke from the
They had to
mansion's
be
entrance
thoroughly
on Changle
investigated.
Avenue.
When
Even
Xiao
after
Mu
turning
turned
a
around to
corner,
look,
there was
she
still
saw
no
that
end in
Duguling
sight.
had left at some unknown
Fortunately,
time. There were plenty of
he had left
ingredients
quietly
in the house,
and soundlessly
the servants
and had
were
long
diligent,
since
so
disappeared
it wasn't like
without
they
a
didn't have
trace.
anything to eat at the last
She
minute.
couldn't help but frown.
As such, the
People
Qiao
from
estate could
Tianyang
only
and
go with the
Xiaoguang
flow
had
and
entered the
host the
Qiao
banquet
estate's
to
gates
invite
at the
all the
right
guests.
times.
Could it be that there
Fortunately,
really
the
wasn't
weather
any
today was
connection?
pretty good,
So the
She couldn't
residents
help
set up
but
dozens
suspect
of banquet
this.
tables in the garden.
Tianyang and Xiaoguang.
The banquet wasn't
Did they have
very
some kind of
particular.
connection, wife?
The
Don't
male
get
and
angry
female
with idle
guests
people.
were arranged to sit in the
The
same
Crown
garden
Prince
and
held
eat
her
at
hand and
separate
consoled
tables.
her in a low voice.
It was
These
very
people
lively.
aren't worth getting angry with.
Although
Understand?
second Aunt Rensher came from a
Arbor
low-ranking
nodded and
official's
looked up at
family,
him.
she was very
Didn't
generous
you send
and
a message
appropriate
back
in her
earlier
dealings
saying
with
that
people?
you had some matters to attend
She
to
helped
and
Wei
might not be able
Ziqin
to make it
entertain
back
the
in
female
time?
guests. I wanted to come
Madame
back
Fong
earlier
of
to
Count
accompany
Huainan's
you.
estate has arrived.
Crown Prince Mo smiled
Madame
as he
Ren
paused
smiled
while
and said to
holding her
Wei
small
Ziqin,
hand. Eldest sister-in-law,
Speaking
go
of
and
today's
greet Madame
matter,
Fong.
it is a bit fishy.
I'll take care of things
I was
here.
held back by some matters,
Wei
and
Ziqin
this group
nodded
of
with a
people
smile.
barged into our home.
She went forward to
I
welcome
feel that there
Madame
might be
Fong
some
and walked
connection
to the
between
side
the
to
two.
exchange greetings. Arbor knew that her husband was especially sensitive when it came to matters. Since he said so, then there really was a problem. You mean to say that
Chapter
the people who caused
5176.
trouble for you might be from Xiaoguang? Fong Luiying, perhaps they wanted to use some trivial matters
spotted
to hold
Arbor
you
with
back,
her sharp eyes,
so that you wouldn't be able to make it back
She
in time.
strode
over and said with a chuckle,
Wife,
greetings
this is
to the Crown
telepathy,
Princess,
isn't it?
The young
I thought
Crown
that my
Princess
wife might
nodded
need me,
slightly and
so I
glanced
heard
at her
we
mother
finished the
and
matters
Madame
at
Fong.
hand
and came back. She said,
Prince
Madame
Mo
lowered
lowered
his
his
head
complexion
and
looked
winked at
much
Arbor.
better.
As
It's
expected,
all thanks to the
many
Crown
people with
Princess's
bad
nourishing
intentions
food
have come to our
prescription.
home again. After so many days of
Mo tugged
recuperation,
Arbor's small
my
hand.
mother's illness has mostly recovered.
Jojo, don't
Fong
worry.
Luiying said with a smile.
Hubby is here for everything.
How's your study of basic
They
pharmacology
won't be able to
coming
bully
along?
our family.
It's all thanks
Arbor
to the Crown
grunted and
Princess's
nodded.
guidance that I've more or
Right
less
now,
grasped
I
basic
want to figure out
what's
pharmacology.
going on with this holy maiden
Yesterday,
of Xiaoguang.
my
hands were itchy,
She
so I
has
tried
the
to make
aura
a
of a seed
hemostatic pill
fragment.
again. According
I
to
didn't
Qiuqiu,
expect that I would
this should be
succeed
the
on my
last
first
try
fragment.
this time. Once
I
Qiuqiu
even made
collected
2
all the
pills.
fragments, its holy wood
She had been
spirit would be
overjoyed at the
completely
time.
recovered. When she
In other
saw the
words,
young Crown
it would be a
Princess
piece
today,
of cake for
the
it to
first thing
produce
she
holy
wanted to
fruits
do
in the
was share
future.
this good news with the little
Mo
stoic.
Lian nodded.
The little stoic
Then we still
nodded
have to ask that
expressionlessly.
saintess.
Since you want
The
to walk the
banquet
path
became
of
lively
pills,
again.
you have to continuously
Although
study.
everyone was toasting each other
Fong
and eating
Luiying
and drinking
hummed
with
with smiles
smiles
and
on their
nodded
faces.
repeatedly. Xiao Mu could tell that
I
these
will
people
continue
were
to
more or
work
less
hard.
contemplative. Amidst the
It was
festive and
probably
lively
because
laughter,
the holy
Saichi
fruit
hurried
just
over
now
and
was
leaned
too
over to
shocking.
whisper something into the young
At this
Crown
moment,
Princess's
everyone
ear.
was still immersed in
The
their
little
own
stoic's
thoughts.
unperturbed expression
His
shifted
Highness
slightly,
the Crown Prince
and she
had
asked
captured
her
the
the
holy
holy
maiden
maiden
of
of
Xiaoguang.
Where is he?
He's
Then the
outside.
people in their organization would
Our
not let
people
this matter
stopped him.
rest. Let him
After
in.
all,
The young
she
Crown
could
Prince
save thousands
consorts
of
said with a
saintesses
cold
of
expression
radiance.
who were poisoned by the corpse
Tianyang
poison.
actually sent people to
On
deliver
Changle
gifts
North
to the
Street
Qiao
in a
estate.
very inconspicuous courtyard.
Since they dared to send gifts,
in the
depths of a dark and narrow
wasn't
path.
someone who didn't
There was
dare
a
to
small,
accept them.
dark, and cramped woodshed.
Following the sound of bright laughter,
the mournful
was a familiar
sound
face
came
from
from
Arbor.
there.
Anyone
She was
who
dressed
heard it
in a
couldn't
bright
help
red
but
robe,
feel their hair
and her hair
stand
was
on
not
end.
tied up or tied.
Mu Xiaoxue clenched
She
her
was very
hands tightly
confident
and
and
followed
at
behind
ease
her
as it
father,
scattered behind
Mu
her
Jinghang.
back.
She
didn't
didn't
dare
dare
to
to
look
look
at
at
the
the hall's
gloomy
hall
and dark
master,
surroundings.
Ling.
Ever since
Following
she
him
returned
was
to
a
the
row
city
of
of
people
shadows,
holding red
the city
brocade
lord's
boxes
wife,
of various
Zhuoyan,
sizes.
hadn't let her have a good day.
There were about a dozen or so people.
and all of them were dressed very jubilantly with red streamers tied around their heads. Chapter 51. The guests looked at each other in dismay. Mu Xiaoxue was worried about her mother. They couldn't figure out the situation. She didn't eat or sleep well in the City of Shadows. We meet again. Now that she heard that her father Mu Jinghong knew about her mother's whereabouts, he tilted his head and looked at Jinghong to bring her along. Long time no see. Accompanying her were her two senior brothers Zhao Yi and Gui Today is the Qiao residence's 100th day banquet. Although she had her senior brothers to take care of her in the City of Shadows, misses you so these men weren't of much here to deliver a gift. In front of the city lord's wife, I didn't know what kind of gifts would suit your taste. They could only be obedient, so I casually picked some. They weren't Zhuyan's match at all. I hope you like them. Speaking of the little crown princess was about to lose her temper. She relied on her status, the little stoic expressionlessly nodded and waved her hand, the City of Shadows to bully her from time to time. Fuck, not only did she embezzle her food and clothing expenses, she even took some cultivation young man in bright red clothes in front of them. Couldn't help but grit her teeth. He didn't seem to have good intentions. Immediately, the image of the city lord's wife's vicious expression and her arrogant voice since he gave me a gift, I won't beat you up today. Since Miss Xiao Shui is a cripple, it means that there is no use in giving her these cultivation resources. Everyone was better to give her cultivation resources to the other disciples with good aptitude, and his mouth secretly twitched. So what if she was a normal person and a cripple? He coughed lightly and said, a cripple I have her own cultivation resources and couldn't try to awaken her meridians. Arbor's small stoic face stared coldly at him with criteria for awakening her meridians. Tell me everything in one inextinguishable flame hidden in her heart. So much nonsense and so clumsy in giving on the path of cultivation. It was annoying. She also hoped that she could be like Mu Fei and open the lid of the box. Even if her cultivation was average, she would at least be a low-level spirit master cried out in a world. The little stoic's eyes chilled, and in the blink of an eye, as long as she could become a low-level spirit sword and held it in even if it was only level 1. Her icy voice seemed to comprehend any of the 5 spirit energies between heaven and earth. Are you seeking death? Even if it was only the 4th or 5th level of water spirit or wood spirit, it would still be much better than nothing. She really didn't have high expectations for herself. Chapter 51. She really didn't have high expectations. Ayayaya, don't hit me first. The heavens weren't willing to give her such a small whose finger this is. Every time the city lord cried out with an aggrieved expression, this is like holding a sharp dagger and firmly stabbing into her heart. Take a good look. Her heart was already riddled with holes, and there was no way to look at those 2 bloody segments. Creak. She only felt the door of the woodshed was pushed open by Mu Jinghong with one hand. This guy dared to do this at her little nephew's 100 day of pain came from inside. If she didn't beat him to death, that cry was like the roar of a suppressed beast. Unexpectedly, when it fell into Mu Xiaoxue's took a step forward and insisted on showing her the brocade box, her hair standing on end. Quickly take a look. Quickly take a look. This is the finger of your great and his hands were quick. It's true. He hurriedly supported his beloved junior sister. I'm really not lying to you. And looked at her tenderly. Take a look. Junior sister. Watch your step. Paused in his action of slashing Zhao with the thunderclap and brushed Gui Xuan's hand away. Sharp glint flitted through his eyes. He then took Mu Xiaoxue's hand and helped her walk inside. When she spat out these 3 words, he reminded her in a low voice. Her chilly voice fell into everyone's heart. This place is dark and damp. They intuitively felt like a string of ice beads rolling into a bead tray. Looking at Zhao Yi's attitude, Gui Xuan could not help but feel a knot when it came to her great enemy. It was true that there weren't many people in the City of Shadows who could be considered her great enemy, but his sincerity toward his junior sister was no less than anyone else. Fell into the heavenly fate empire's this senior brother Zhao Yi. It was fine. However, if he always found fault with him, looking but in front of a grin and an approving expression. He always wanted to compete with him. I knew the little stoic was the smartest person in the world. Zhao Yi supported Mu Xiaoxue that he really stepped into the cramped and dark woodshed. Arbor's gaze shifted slightly. He glanced at the person behind him and deliberately stretched out his leg to kick Gui Xuan. The young sir said that he also didn't know that the old man would send people to kidnap Hall Master Mu. In his heart, he felt very apologetic. 5189. Stoic. This kick didn't cause Gui Xuan to stumble slightly, delaying the two by half him expressionlessly. Gui Xuan was so angry that smoke came out of his head. Even if he could only watch helplessly, it was your heavenly fate led his junior sister into the woodshed. You're all jackals of the same lair. A trace of resentment emerged in his heart. When the 2 words, heavenly fate, the seed of resentment was buried in his heart. All of them exhaled in unison. He only needed to stimulate it a little every day, incredulous as they glared at taken root and sprouted. This red-cloaked young sir was actually a person of the heavenly fate gritted his teeth and followed in. Currently, His Highness had already ordered a manhunt for people of the heavenly fate empire making the entire Dragon Flame City. Mu Jinghong frowned and turned to young master's guts would be so bold. He said coldly to Gui Xuan, as a person of the heavenly fate realm, instead of hiding at home, he actually dared to appear at the Xiao Estate's 100-day banquet. He hurriedly bowed and did not dare to show the slightest anger on his face. Everyone couldn't help but look at the young crown prince consort in puzzlement. This gooey Xuan,
They all
if it were
secretly
not
thought
for his daughter
the
Mu
Crown Prince
Xiaoxue asking him
Consort
to
and
accept
this
him
young
as a
master of
disciple,
Tianyun
with his
seemed to be
ordinary
very familiar
aptitude,
with each
he would
other.
not be qualified to
Could
enter
it
the
be
city
that
of
they are
shadows,
acquaintances,
or even
it was
friends
only
everyone
because of a
stole
power
a
of the
glance
Gu
at the young
family
crown
behind
gooey
princess.
Xuan.
Although
Her
the
cold
Gu family
expression,
was not a
they did not
first-class
dare to
aristocratic
make any
family,
wild guesses.
it could still be ranked as a
As for
second-class
everyone's
aristocratic
suspicions and
family.
guesses at the banquet,
It
had
seemed that there
absolutely
was some
nothing to
redeeming
do with the little
qualities.
stoic Mu Jinghong's
What other people
footsteps
thought had
suddenly
nothing to
stopped.
do with her, and she was
From his
never
angle,
someone who
he
cared
could
about
see a
how
thin
others
and
looked
shriveled
at her.
figure curled up in the corner.
However, what annoyed her the
His
most
whole
was
body was
Duguling's
pressed
real
against the
intention for
firewood
coming
like a
here
thin
to
piece
deliver
of
2
paper.
bloody fingers. He looked like he had experienced the vicissitudes
You can't
of
just
life
barge
and had
in.
a pitiful
You
look.
can't barge in.
Qingya. Outside the
Mu
courtyard,
Jinghong's
several
voice was
servants'
trembling
shouts
with
could be
fear,
heard, accompanied by
He
the
did not
sound of
expect
hurried
that in just a
footsteps.
short period of time,
Stop.
Qingya would be tortured to such
The
an
royal
extent
guard
that she did
standing
not
guard
look
around
human.
the Qiao estate promptly
These
appeared
people
at the
were really
courtyard's
abominable,
entrance and blocked the group of
Mu
people who were
Jinghong's
hurrying
eyes
over.
were wide open as he walked
How
forward
dare you
quickly.
block our holy maiden's path?
Mu Qingya, who was curled
Go
up
away.
beside the pile of firewood,
Following that
could not
shout,
help but
the
twitch
2 guards of the
slightly.
Qiao estate were sent
Her
flying
whole body
through the air
shrank
with
behind
a
the
slap,
pile of
crashing
firewood.
straight towards the banquet.
This kind of feeling of
All the
resistance
guests
and
couldn't
rejection
help
was
but
very
gasp in
obvious.
surprise.
Qingya.
Mu Jinghong did not care about how dirty she was. He strode forward and pulled this weak woman into his arms. At this time, he saw Mu Qingya's bony face clearly. Mu Jinghong's heart was filled with grief and indignation. He could not help but cry. Qingya, how have they treated you during this period of time? How could a dignified and elegant woman be tortured to such a state? She had fallen into Arbor's hands. That evil woman from Arbor had actually sent people to make his Qingya look like this. Mother, mother. Mu Xiaoxue was also scared out of her wits by her mother's current appearance. She screamed twice and knelt down in front of her mother. Mu Qingya's dim eyes suddenly lit up. She reached out her bony hand and groped in front of her as if she wanted to grab Mu Xiaoxue's hand. However, when Mu Xiaoxue saw her mother's dark, bone-like claws, she hesitated and subconsciously shrank back. Although her movements were very fast, Mu Qingya could still see her daughter's movements clearly even though her vision was blurry. Her retraction of her hand was like a heavy punch to Mu Qingya's heart. Mu Qingya's heart twitched. The sound that came out of her mouth was as if she had been run over by a wheel. She called out, Xiaoxue, in a deep voice and raised her trembling hand again. Chapter 5190. This time, Mu Xiaoxue braced herself and reached out her hands. After all, under the strict gaze of her father, Mu Jinghong, if she retracted her hands again, it would definitely cause her father's dissatisfaction. Right now, in the entire city of shadows, the only person who could protect her was her father. Naturally, she wouldn't provoke her father's anger over such a small matter. However, when her mother's bony and incomparably cold hands touched her, Mu Xiaoxue couldn't help but feel a chill run down her spine. It was really like a pair of hands of a dead person. Not to mention the lack of warmth, there were even rotting acne on the back of the hands. She didn't know what kind of feelings her father had for her mother. He was actually able to carry a person who looked like a skeleton and was covered in rotting sores. No wonder the city lord's wife, Zhuoyan, hated her mother so much. Compared to the city lord's wife, it was obvious that her father's love for her mother, Mu Qingya, was unquestionable. Mu Xiaoxue took a deep breath and used almost all of her strength to hold Mu Qingya's bony hands. With this touch, she felt that her mother was missing 2 pinky fingers. She was so shocked that she almost let go. Mu Qingya said intermittently, Xiao Shui. Mu Jinghong hurriedly hugged her and said in a deep voice, I'm here, Qingya. Don't worry, your illness will definitely get better. I will send the best people to treat you. However, before I reach an agreement with the second young master, I will have to trouble you to stay here for a few more days. Mu Qingya spent a lot of effort before slowly nodding her head, I know. However, she knew her own body better than anyone else. This body was about to collapse. After experiencing so many medicinal trials, she was already lucky to be able to hold on until today. However, she didn't know how long she could hold on. She knew in her heart that once her body completely collapsed, she might turn into a pile of meat paste or something even uglier.
She didn't want to frighten her daughter, Xiao Shui. Her Xiao Shui was so perfect. She was like her in every aspect. This girl has a brighter future. She can't stay in a place like Tianyun. She can't. Mu Qingya grabbed Mu Jinghong's hand tightly and said word by word with great difficulty, I want you to promise me one thing. It doesn't matter if I die, but our daughter, she can't join the heavenly fate, Mu Qingya said in a low voice. I want her to break away from the heavenly fate, break away. Qingya, don't get agitated. Mu Jinghong hurriedly said to Mu Qingya, Qingya, why would you say that? When did Xiao Shui join the Heavenly Fate Academy? Mu Qingya held Mu Xiaoshue's hand. She looked a little nervous. Even if you don't have it now, it doesn't mean that you won't have it in the future. I'm already, almost, about to die. They have no humanity. Xiao Shui is my daughter. She meets the conditions in all aspects. They will demand Jinghong, for the sake of our many years of husband-wife relationship, you must help Xiao Shui, help her, break away. Mu Xiaoshui was silent. Her face was as heavy as water. Chapter 5191. Despite her mother's bony claws pressing down on her hand, Mu Xiaoshui's heart did not waver. One of her mother's hands was obviously missing 2 fingers. When she held her hand, it made Mu Xiaoshui shudder. Whether her mother did not let her join Tianyun was for her sake or not, it was hard to say. After all, with her current identity as an ordinary commoner, if she did not join Tianyun, she would not be able to live a good life. Dawdle in the City of Shadows? With that woman Zhui Yan in the City of Shadows, Mu Xiaoshui would never have a good life. Other than joining Tianyun, what else could she do? Mu Xiaoshui secretly gritted her teeth. If she joined Tianyun, her fate would probably change greatly. If she listened to Mu Qingya's words, he was afraid that he could only muddle along like this for the rest of his life. In front of Mu Jinghong, Mu Xiaoshui did not dare to say anything. She just lowered her head in silence. Mu Qingya said, If Tianyun must use my daughter, then Mu Roxuan can help. Anyway, she has already taken the improved medicine. Okay. Mu Jinghong nodded and looked at the skinny woman in her arms with a gentle expression. Qingya, don't worry. I have heard everything you said. You will get better. You will definitely get better. You are such a strange woman. God must be reluctant to let you go like this. Mu Jinghong held Mu Qingya's hand and sighed softly. Mu Qingya showed a self-deprecating smile. Is it? God? She never believed in God, nor did she believe in fate. Heaven had never been kind to her, or even to her daughter. Otherwise, her daughter would not be like her, born a cripple. This was the heavens being unfair to her and her mother. God had never given her any hope, nor had he given her any tenderness. So why should she be kind to others? This was especially true for those talented geniuses who seemed to have saved the world with their own protagonist aura. None of them could feel the pain of being a mediocre human. No one could understand her pain, unwillingness, and resentment. These people should be like Long Chu-yun and experience what it felt like to walk down from the altar and into the abyss. Why did she have to be an ordinary person who was at the mercy of others just because she worked so hard? Arbor has a lot of secrets. Mu Qingya held Mu Xiaoshui's hand and said in a hoarse voice, You'd better avoid her. She's not someone you can handle. This person who had been reborn was like a demon who had returned from hell. Her daughter, Mu Xiaoshui, was definitely no match for this woman. Whether it was in terms of strength or intelligence, it was impossible to surpass them. The best method was to warn Xiao Shui to stay away from this woman, stay away from this evil spirit, the further the better, and never provoke her for the rest of her life. Unexpectedly, the more Mu Qingya said, the more indignant Mu Xiaoshui became. She had suffered at the hands of Arbor too many times to count. Every time he saw this woman, Xiao Mu, he would suffer at her hands without exception. Why did even her mother look down on her and say that she was no match for others? She was unwilling, indignant, and her heart was filled with anger. Chapter 5192. Wasn't it because that woman's cultivation was much higher than hers that she dared to speak and act so presumptuously? If only she, Xiao Muxue, could have this ability. Who knew who would be the one begging whom now? If I didn't guess wrongly, Arbor not only has a portable spirit domain, he might also have the spirit of the holy wood. The holy wood of the 5 spirit origins? Mu Xiaoshue's eyes were crimson red, and flames of jealousy shot out wantonly from the depths of her heart. She had heard her mother mention that Arbor had inherited the 10,000-year-old mermaid pearl that her mother, Long Chuyun, had given her. Now, her mother said that not only did he have a portable spirit domain, he might even have the spirit of the holy wood. According to the news from Shuntian Prefecture, it should be close to the mark. Arbor not only has sacred water, but also has the holy wood. Perhaps he is hiding some secret that we don't know. Mu Xiaoshue's eyes abruptly shot out a strange luster. I heard that the Talisman Hall has a soul swap talisman that can smack. Before Mu Xiaoshue could finish her sentence, Mu Qingya slapped her with a trembling hand, causing her to yelp in pain. Silly. Mu Qingya stared at her daughter with disappointment. If the soul swap talisman can be used, do you think mother can't fight for you? Xiao Mu is a cultivator. She has already experienced the 5 spirit reincarnation and broken through to the godly realm. Mu Qingya laboriously enunciated each word. With your normal person's soul energy, do you think? Can you swap out her powerful soul? If you do it rashly, you will probably only be consigned to eternal damnation. Mu Qingya supported her body with difficulty. Daughter, actually, being a normal person may not be unhappy. I only know that if I become a normal person with no accomplishments and don't strive for anything, I might just live a mediocre life without obtaining anything. I can't accept it. Mu Xiaoshue's voice choked with sobs. She pushed Mu Qingya's arm away and ran out sobbing while covering her face. Xiaoshue. Mu Jinghong roared in displeasure. Mu Qingya, on the other hand, coughed violently due to anger. Zhao Yi hurriedly said, Master, I will go out and take a look at junior sister. Master, I'll go see junior sister too. Gu Yishuan hurriedly followed. If something happened to his junior sister, Gu Yishuan felt that he might not be able to live on. His junior sister's crying appearance just now really made one's heart ache. Mu Qingya grabbed Mu Jinghong's hand tightly and said intermittently, Look after Shui. You have to look after Shui. She understood Shui's thoughts too well. A daughter resembled her mother. Shui was just like her. She was so competitive and wanted to fight against fate. However, fate was not something that could be explained in a few words. Mu Jinghong nodded repeatedly. She hugged Mu Qingya and said in a deep voice, Take good care of your body. When you are better, I will bring you and your mother back to the City of Shadows. Mu Qingya smiled bitterly. I am afraid that I won't be able to get better. She knew her own body best. Huang He and those bitches had probably used no less than 1,000 kinds of drugs on her. Her body was on the verge of collapse. It was only a matter of time. Chapter 5193. I won't. Mu Jinghong hurriedly shook his head. Since Patriarch Qin is willing to send so many people to save you, it means that he won't let you die so easily. Family head Qin will definitely send people to settle you down and save you. You can relax, you must relax, okay? Qingya, we still have a lot of good days to live in the future. Don't worry, as long as you get better, I'll deal with that bitch Shui Yan and let you follow me back to the City of Shadows. I'll let you be the City Lord's wife. Mu Qingya's lips curled into a smile. If you're serious about treating me well, then you must take good care of Shui. I'm afraid something will happen to my daughter. Don't worry, I will. I will definitely protect our daughter and won't let anyone bully her. Mu Qingya nodded tiredly. Mu Jinghong's hands suddenly grasped Mu Qingya's hands tightly. When he touched her two broken fingers, a trace of anger flashed through his eyes. Qingya, don't worry, I will talk to second young master again. I will definitely ask them to let you go as soon as possible. Mu Qingya only smiled faintly and didn't say anything. She knew very well in her heart. Mu Jinghong couldn't say anything in front of second young master. Second young master was willing to give him some face and let him bring his daughter to visit her. This was already considered generous. As for men's vows and sweet words, it was fine to just listen to them. She, Mu Qingya, had lived a miserable life and was not tolerated by the heavens. She didn't want her daughter to walk down her old path. It was too hard and not worth it. She shouldn't let her good years go to waste. Mu Xiaoshua's cries reached Gu Yishuan's ears from afar, causing his heart to clench. He couldn't bear it. He walked over quickly, and from afar, he saw Zhao Yi, that grandson, hugging his beloved junior sister, whispering something under a cluster of flowering trees. Gu Yishuan's expression became very ugly on the spot and a trace of anger surged from the bottom of his heart. Just as he was about to take a few steps forward and pull Zhao Yi away, he heard Zhao Yi whisper to Xiao Shui, junior sister, don't be so unhappy. Hall Master Mu is also thinking for you. That soul exchange talisman might really hurt you. Then what do you think we should do? Mu Xiaoxue said indignantly. My mother can't even save herself. I'm just a weak woman. How am I supposed to protect myself in the future? Zhao Yi immediately patted his chest and said, don't worry junior sister, I will definitely protect you. Mu Xiaoxue sneered in her heart. However, Gu Yishuan interrupted first. With your cultivation, you can't even defeat one of Qiao Mu's fingers. What are you going to use to protect Xiao Shui? What did you say? Zhao Yi jumped up in agitation as if he had been stung by a bee's tail. Gu Yishuan snorted coldly. If you really care about junior sister, then you should come up with a better idea for her. What do you mean? Junior sister. Gu Yishuan approached the two with a gloomy face. Think about it. Do you really want to exchange your soul into that evil woman's body? If you want to take over her body, then you have to give birth to her child. Not only that, you have to face her paralyzed face all day long. Are you willing to do that? Mu Xiaoxue had a look of realization and shook her head. I don't want to give birth to her child. I don't want to. She wasn't willing to bear that kind of pain. Chapter 5194. On what basis? On what basis should she, a pure and noble young lady, help that slut bear a child? Bah, don't even think about it. Moreover, she, Mu Xiaoxue, was a prideful person. The man she wanted had to be the best in the world, the perfect and flawless. How could she take over someone else's husband? She didn't want that. Moreover, that man's heart was filled with other women. She couldn't tolerate such a thing happening to her. The man she wanted had to give his heart and soul to her alone. He couldn't have any other thoughts. Gu Yishuan cracked a sinister smile. Junior sister, what you want is only that person's talent. It's her life's opportunity. Yes, yes. Mu Xiaoxue nodded. She almost had a nightmare. If she really took over that woman's broken body, she would be pregnant and have to raise her child in the future. She really wanted to vomit to death. Looking at that stoic face every day was too painful. No, Gu Yishuan was right. She only wanted that woman's natural luck. It was an opportunity that she couldn't live without. As for that rotten body, she didn't want it. Gu Yishuan's eyes flashed with pride. He looked at Zhao Yi and said, I heard that our Tianyin's Talisman Hall has a talisman called the Universe Reversal Talisman. Zhao Yi's heart trembled. That's the most powerful talisman the Talisman Hall has made in all these years. What do you want? What, is eldest senior brother's deep love for junior sister all an act? You don't even dare to steal a mere universe reversal talisman. You want me to steal a talisman from the Talisman Hall? Zhao Yi almost shouted. In the end, his rationality pulled him back. He had no choice but to lower his voice and spit out those words. Mu Xiaoshue's eyes lit up when she heard the words universe reversal talisman. That's right, how could she forget that there was such a talisman in the world? This talisman was practically tailor-made for her. She needed this talisman. She wanted this talisman. She wanted to transfer all of that woman's destiny and all of her good fortune to herself. She, Mu Xiaoshue, was destined to take everything from that woman, including her cultivation, her portable spiritual domain, the holy wood, the holy water, everything. Just the thought of it made Mu Xiaoshue's blood boil. It was as if she had already succeeded and taken over everything that the bitch had. Ah, fate, is fate unfair to me? If it was unfair, she could fight for it. She could try her best to defy the heavens and change her fate. Ha, ha 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 ha. Thinking of this, Mu Xiaoshue could not help but giggle. She really wanted to obtain this inverse the universe talisman. She couldn't help but look at Zhao Yi expectantly. Seeing this, Guishuan couldn't help but laugh in her heart. Zhao Yi, oh Zhao Yi, it's not so easy to pretend to be a Casanova. Once Zhao Yi stepped into the Hall of Talismans and Spells to steal talismans, he would teach him a lesson he would never forget. Zhao Yi loved and cherished this junior sister from the bottom of his heart. When he saw that she was looking forward to him, his heroic complex surged and he hurriedly nodded at her. Don't worry, junior sister. As long as such a talisman really exists in the Hall of Talismans and Spells, I will get it for junior sister even if I have to climb a mountain of swords or dive into a sea of fire. Zhao Yi solemnly promised. Chapter 5195. Senior brother. Mu Xiaoshue was overjoyed. She moaned and fell into Zhao Yi's arms. She hugged the man with a tender and affectionate look on her face. Zhao Yi immediately hugged her soft waist. His heart was filled with joy as he lowered his head to ask for a kiss. Mu Xiaoshue was secretly angry, but in order to trick Zhao Yi into giving her his unswerving loyalty, she had to bite the bullet and let him kiss her. But when she felt her lips turn cold, she felt nauseous. Resisting the urge to vomit, Mu Xiaoshue pretended to smile at the man. Zhao Yi's heart was in turmoil. He reached out and hugged the woman he loved tightly. He felt like he was floating. It felt like even if he had to go through a mountain of knives and a sea of fire, there was nothing to be afraid of. In order to make little junior sister happy, he was willing to risk his life. He was willing to do anything for her. Gu Yishuan gritted his teeth and looked coldly at Zhao Yi. Zhao Yi was a brainless man. He was destined to be his stepping stone. Even he, who had joined the organization halfway, knew about the Talisman Hall. It was the most mysterious place in the entire sect. But in order to trick Zhao Yi, Gu Yishuan spared no effort. I heard that Master Luo from the Talisman Hall has been by young master's side recently. As the deputy hall master of the Talisman Hall, he should have such an important talisman with him. Zhao Yi was not a complete fool. He was not completely blinded by beauty. Hearing Gu Yishuan's words, he turned around with his junior sister in his arms. He stared at Gu Yishuan and sneered. Is there such a coincidence? Gu Yishuan shrugged and smiled pretentiously. Coincidence or not, we will only know when we see it. What do you mean? What I mean is Master Luo is an important member of the Hall of Heavenly Fortune Talisman Hall. Even if he does not have the inverse the universe talisman with him, he should at least know who has it now. Zhao Yi's eyebrows were completely tied into a dead knot. Was Gu Yishuan tricking him? If he were to ask Master Luo such a sensitive question, then, Senior Brother Zhao, am I making things too difficult for you? Mu Xiaoshue, who was buried in his arms, raised her head and asked gently. Zhao Yi hurriedly hugged her tightly and said with a smile, "No problem, I'll leave this matter to senior brother." For the beauty in his arms, what was so difficult about climbing a mountain of swords or plunging into a sea of fire? Zhao Yi was hot-headed and immediately agreed. It was worth it to fight for his junior sister. "Greetings, second young master." Mu Jinghong was led to the back garden. Mu Jinghong glanced at the man who was standing in front of the stone table, leaning slightly to practice calligraphy with his back facing her. Mu Jinghong forced a smile and bowed to the Omega Kotoku. Second young master was dressed in a purple robe. He stood tall and straight in front of them. "Oh, you came at the right time. It's City Lord Mu." A laugh came from the courtyard entrance. Mu Jinghong turned around and hurriedly bowed again. Mu Jinghong greets eldest young master. Eldest young master Qin waved a small gold fan and smiled. "City Lord Mu need not be so courteous. We are all family. Have a seat." Mu Jinghong cupped his hands in greeting and respectfully sat down on a stone stool in front of the two. He got straight to the point. "Young master, when can this subordinate bring Hall Master Mu back to soaring heaven?" Chapter 5196. Bring him back? Young Master Omega Kotoku glanced at Mu Jinghong with a spurious smile. "City Lord Mu, have you forgotten? Father has already handed Flying Paradise to me. Flying Paradise is now under my jurisdiction. Isn't it right for me to keep Hall Master Mu?" Young Master Omega Kotoku sneered. Could it be that Hall Master Mu is only subservient to me on the surface and is actually working for father? "Young Master, you're exaggerating." Mu Jinghong hastily defended himself. Flying Paradise was previously managed by family head Qin, but now it's considered second younger brother's subordinate. Eldest young master Qin interrupted Mu Jinghong with a smile and winked at him. Second younger brother naturally has his own reasons for keeping Hall Master Mu. "City Lord Mu, if there's nothing else, it's better for you to return early." He truly understood this younger brother of his all too well. His younger brother was eccentric, and obstinate. Once he set his mind on something, he would carry it out to the end. For example, it was his decision to leave Mu Qingya in Changle Villa. Mu Jinghong was truly too naive to think that he could influence second younger brother's decision. Mu Jinghong nodded gratefully at eldest young master Qin. He wasn't someone who didn't know what was good for him and naturally knew that eldest young master was giving him advice. That's right, this second young master's temperament was extremely unpredictable. It would be more appropriate for him to return and seek help from family head Qin first and ask him to make a trip here. Even if he wanted to reason with this second young master, there was probably nothing he could do. This young master had never been an easy person to talk to. Thinking of this, Mu Jinghong didn't delay any longer. He stood up and bowed to young master Omega Kotoku and eldest young master before hastily bidding farewell and leaving. Young master Omega Kotoku's icy gaze stared fixedly at the man's departing figure. After a long while, he glanced at eldest young master. This younger brother never knew that eldest brother was so compassionate. Eldest young master Qin gazed at him innocently. "What do you mean? Didn't you remind Mu Jinghong to leave as soon as possible and not confront me head-on because you wanted to tell him that he can't rely on himself alone? He can't save Mu Qingya on his own. If we want to save her, we have to ask father for help." Eldest young master Qin couldn't resist chuckling as he waved the small fan in his hand. "What are you saying? Mu Jinghong and I are not related in any way, so why should I help him? On the other hand, second brother, you had Ling send 2 fingers to the little Stoic's family on their wedding day. This gift is too original. I guarantee that the little Stoic won't like it and will even secretly remember you in her heart. You're not her. How do you know she won't like it?" Eldest young Sir Qin waved his fan and said with a grin, "Of course I know. I was lying on the roof opposite her house at the time and saw everything. You didn't see the little Stoic's complexion. Tisk, it's so dark, it's comparable to the bottom of a pot." Omega Kotoku looked at him silently. Second brother, don't blame me for not teaching you a few moves. You can't woo a girl like this. Say, who would freaking be happy if you send her 2 bloody severed fingers on her wedding day? Why don't you learn from eldest brother and have Ling send her a pile of good stuff? Although the little stoic doesn't like it on the surface, she'll still accept it all. She's a girl, after all. Sending her some shiny things is better than sending her bloody ones. Omega Kotoka glanced at him silently before standing up and walking towards the woodshed. Chapter 5197. Eldest young Sir Chin was startled and hastily followed after him, shouting the entire way. Second brother ran. Why are you looking for her again? I'm telling you, if you want the little stoic to be happy, why don't you cut to the chase and kill this woman? She really won't like it if you give her a finger today and an ear tomorrow. Her body is currently undergoing the 3rd stage of mutation. That's right. Eldest young Sir Chin chuckled as he spread his hands. Otherwise, father wouldn't have let people rescue her. To tell the truth, since you won't kill her, then you might as well do us a favor and let Mu Jinghong bring her back. At that time, the little stoic will definitely be looking for trouble with Mu Jinghong and won't be able to find trouble with us. What do you think of eldest brother's idea? The second young sir couldn't be bothered with him and quickly left. Eldest young Sir Chin stopped in his tracks with a grin and waved the small fan in his hand as he muttered to himself, if you do this, you'll only drift further and further away. Who do you think the little stoic is? Don't try to guess the little stoic's thoughts, you won't be able to guess them even if you did. The next day, Zhao Guang gathered over 1,000 disciples and sat silently in front of Dragon Flame City's capital office. They didn't do anything out of line and only sat there silently protesting the crown prince's order to capture their holy lady. This incident attracted countless commoners from all over the streets to watch. Everyone who passed by the capital office couldn't resist stopping to take a look at Zhao Guang's meditating disciples. Everyone wanted to know how the capital office would deal with them. After all, Holy Lady Zhao Guang's methods were exceedingly formidable and could save a dying person bitten by a zombie. But even so, she was still no match for His Highness the Crown Prince and was currently being held captive in the capital office's prison. The Holy Lady and her entourage were all imprisoned for the reason of causing trouble for no reason. About 16 to 16 hours had passed since yesterday's incident. It could be assumed that Holy Lady Zhao Guang's days in prison weren't too pleasant. It rained in the morning. Although it was dusk now, the stone tiles on the streets were still damp. A low-key and luxurious carriage pulled by 4 spirit horses stopped in front of the capital office's gate. The carriage's curtains were gently brushed open. Everyone was stunned when they saw the person who came down from the carriage. He saw the little stoic crown princess slowly walking down the stairs with a cold and delicate face. Last night at the banquet, the young crown princess was brought back to the Eastern Palace by the crown prince to rest. She slept until noon. If it wasn't for Kai Xiu's reminder, she would have forgotten about the sacred maiden of bright light and her entourage. Everyone's gaze landed on the young crown princess's cold face, and they couldn't help but praise her beauty in their hearts. Unfortunately, her cold and jade face was covered in a layer of frost all day long, and there wasn't the slightest trace of a bright and beautiful smile. It was icy cold to the extreme. Crown Princess. Kai Xiu held her hand, and her footsteps paused slightly. The little crown princess followed her gaze and looked at the people kneeling on both sides of the capital office. The light in the young crown princess's eyes flickered as she spoke coldly. Since they are so worried about the holy maiden, why don't we throw them into the prison as well and let them accompany their holy maiden? Everyone, fuck. This young crown princess's train of thought was indeed completely different from the rest of the world. When she saw other people sitting quietly in protest, she actually directly detained this group of people. Her attitude was clearly, I want to see how many people you Zhao Guang can provide. Chapter 5198. No matter how many people came, they would be detained without mercy. After all, the little crown princess was not an ordinary person, and she would not indulge them. Zhao Guang and the other disciples who were sitting still and not doing anything were all stunned at this moment. They looked in the direction of the crown princess in a daze, almost thinking that they had heard wrongly. Record all of these people in the book. Record their cultivation level and spiritual energy. Record them clearly. As Qiao Mu spoke faintly, she walked towards the capital governor's office and coldly tossed out, "Have them go to Chess Mountain Spirit Mine to mine or another day. Since they're all so free, give them something to do." Yes. The secret guards beside the young crown prince consort all hung their heads, forcibly suppressing their smiles. Tell me, are these people from the Zhao Guang sect stupid? How could they casually provoke the little crown princess's patience when they came? Wouldn't they be in trouble immediately? The male and female disciples of the Zhao Guang sect who were sitting quietly were also dumbfounded. They were about to stand up and protest when the little crown princess said coldly, "If there's any resistance, kill them without mercy." Following her words, hundreds of figures scuttled out from all directions with a whoosh. They were on guard, and the defense was tight. They stared coldly at the restless Zhao Guang disciples. Everyone, Arbor had already suppressed a bellyful of anger at the little tiger's 100th day banquet yesterday. If they still wanted to provoke her today, she would make sure that they would not be able to bear the consequences. Reporting to the crown princess. A slightly older Zhao Guang disciple stood up and bowed to Arbor. "We're not here to go against the imperial court, nor to make things difficult for the crown princess. Just based on you, you want to make things difficult for this crown princess?" Arbor bluntly rebuked him. What a joke. That person was instantly choked speechless. That's true, who could make things difficult for the crown princess? Yesterday, it was this crown princess who did not want to spill blood at the 100th day banquet. Today, I don't have so many scruples. She said coldly, "Since you people want to follow your saintess, then this crown princess will fulfill your wish." It's not the crown princess, it's not. The senior disciple wanted to say something, but the young crown princess waved her hand impatiently. "If you don't believe me, you can try resisting." The little stoic's icy gaze swept over everyone. "Let's see if this crown princess can do anything to you." Everyone kept quiet out of fear, not daring to speak for a moment. Even the onlookers scattered like birds and beasts, obediently returning to their own homes to look for their mothers. What kind of joke was this? If they continued to watch, they might even be treated as members of the Radiant Light and be arrested as well. Not everyone's drama was worth watching. At least, in their impression, the crown princess drama wasn't very interesting. Take him away. Serene Bai raised his hand, and a group of hidden guards immediately rushed forward to arrest all the Radiant Light disciples and detain them in the capital magistrate's office. When the capital magistrate, Chao Jiedo, rushed out upon hearing the commotion, he could only look at the young crown princess with a bitter expression. He deliberated again and again before still rubbing his hands and saying pitifully, "Please forgive me, crown princess. This many people, our capital magistrate's prison really can't hold all of them. How about we transfer them to the Ministry of Justice's prison?" He tried to discuss this with the young crown princess. Chao Jiedo's old face was bitter. Chapter 5199. What he said was the truth, there was no falsehood. After all, the capital office's prison was only so big. It could fit one batch, but not the other. Chao Ju's worries were not groundless. The young crown princess's face was taut, she waved her hand and said, "No need. It doesn't matter if the prison can't fit them. Tomorrow, we'll transfer them to Chess Mountain to help the commoners mine." Chao Ju's foot slipped, he immediately felt that the young crown princess was really not a bad idea. Chao Ju chuckled as he followed the young crown princess all the way inside. "Crown princess, do you want this official to bring that sacred maiden Zhao Guang out of the prison?" Letting the crown princess run to that kind of dark place with a big belly, it really wasn't very smart. If by chance His Highness the Crown Prince were to find out, he would definitely chop him up. That's why Chao Ju hurriedly asked with a smile. The young crown prince consort agreed after some thought. If she went to that gloomy and smelly prison, her shoes would get dirty from all that stepping. She then nodded at Xiao Ju and said, "Bring her to the hall. Just her alone is enough. I have something to ask her." "Okay." Xiao Ju immediately accepted the order and left. Not a moment later, he ordered someone to bring a girl to the main hall. Compared to yesterday's fairy-like girl, this sacred maiden today was certainly comical. Not to mention her drooping long hair, it also appeared greasy. Her head looked like it was stuck with a piece of dung, and her entire person emitted a sour stench. When she saw Arbor, she immediately became somewhat crazy and shouted with a stern voice, "Let me go. You woman, what right do you have to capture me?" "Ah." Arbor's pair of cold eyes looked at her. He also didn't talk nonsense with her and went straight to the point. "I just want to ask you one thing. Where did you hide the sacred wood seed fragment?" The sacred maiden Zhaoguang, who was currently baring her fangs and brandishing her claws, heard this. Her eyes clearly flashed slightly. She then said, "I don't know what you're talking about. What seed fragment? I simply don't understand." "Is that so?" Xiao Mu swept her an indifferent glance before beckoning with her hand. Immediately, 2 hidden guards stepped out from behind her, pushing a large, round wooden barrel. "This is the barrel of bliss invented by His Majesty. I thought it was quite useful, so I brought it for you to try," Arbor said coldly. "You don't have to thank me." The Saintess of Bright Light panicked on the spot. She looked at that large circular wooden barrel in a daze, then at Xiao Mu, who didn't look like she was joking. She shook her head repeatedly and shrieked, "No, you can't treat me like this. I am the Saintess, the Shining Light Saintess. You can't do that." "I can't." Arbor's eyes didn't even move. He just raised his hand and waved it gently. 2 shadow guards immediately stepped forward and grabbed her arms, dragging her towards the barrel of bliss. "No, no, no, let go of me, no." The Saintess of Light panicked. Her entire face revealed an anxious expression. She hurriedly cried out, I really don't know what you're talking about. What sacred wood, what, no, no." Her entire body was already pressed against the barrel of bliss. Her pupils contracted as she stared at the hundreds and thousands of little snakes and insects in the barrel. She was so frightened that snot and tears flowed down her face. She saw a little snake suddenly raise its triangular head from the barrel and spit out a black snake tongue at her. The Saintess of Light's limbs froze. Her body went limp and collapsed. She repeatedly cried out, I'll talk. I'm willing to tell you everything I know. I'll talk. Chapter 5200. Xiao Mu hummed an acknowledgement before saying with a nod, "I know that a curse has been cast on your divine conscious, so there's a defensive barrier outside your conscious. Whenever you're threatened by an external force, being searched, or being suppressed by a dictum talisman, you'll automatically choose to explode your soul." Arbor looked at her calmly. "This technique reminds me of Shintu Jing. Shintu Jing once said that the barrier in her conscious was set up by Grand State Preceptor Li La. Now I have reason to suspect that this Li La is related to your radiant light. Or let me put it this way, does your radiant light belong to Tianyun?" No. "How can our radiant light belong to Tianyun? We're against Tianyun. When we joined the organization, we swore that Tianyun and I cannot coexist together." The radiant light saintess shook her head repeatedly and hurriedly explained. Arbor really didn't believe the person in front of her at all. She grabbed her hair and pinched her face without pity. She asked word by word, "You're called Yuan Maui?" Yuan Maui was really scared. This little crown princess in front of her was like a devil that had crawled up from hell. When her 5 ice-cold fingers pinched her face, the radiant light saintess felt a chill quickly climbing up from the bottom of her heart. It was so cold that she couldn't help but shiver. She nodded with tears and snot flowing down her face. She started to regret accepting this mission to provoke this ghost crown princess. No wonder, there were so many people present at that time. Even if she exposed the close relationship between the crown princess and Tianyun's upper echelons, no one dared to question this little crown princess. This was probably because they had long been subdued by this little crown princess's terrifying methods. Crown princess, please let me go, crown princess. The way the little crown princess smiled coldly at her was filled with endless eerie coldness. It was terrifying to look at. I'll tell you everything I know. As long as it's something crown princess wants to ask, I'm willing to tell you. That would be great. Arbor nodded and loosened his grip on the saintess' hair. Tell me, where did you hide the seed fragments? This was what she wanted to know the most. As for the rest, they were all trivial matters. Seed fragments, hide no, I didn't hide them. Yuan Maui hurriedly shook his head, revealing a cautious expression. The crown princess is wise. This lowly one is definitely not lying. It's true. Although this lowly one doesn't understand what the crown princess means, this lowly one doesn't know. But from what the crown princess said, it should be, Wait, listen to me, I'm done. Yuan Maui's eyes widened in fear. She hurriedly used both hands to support herself on the edge of the wooden barrel to ensure that her head wouldn't be pressed down and come into intimate contact with the thing in the barrel. Speak. Arbor didn't want to waste any more words with her and bluntly asked, Speak clearly. Yes, it's this lowly one who doesn't dare to lie to the crown princess. Yuan Maui answered honestly. That holy fruit is, I know. This was what she was worried about. This holy fruit didn't seem to be fake, but it was an imperfect half-finished product. It seemed to have been produced by external forces. Chiochio said that the last seed fragment contained the power of the wood spirit's origin, which surpassed all the previous fragments. Chapter 5201. As such, it wasn't strange for someone to produce a semi-finished holy fruit. But the problem was that the fruit produced by these people with brute force was only 1/10 of the original holy fruit. Furthermore, such a barbaric method would only inflict significant damage to the holy wood fragment. There was no benefit to it at all. Chiochio was worried that the fragment of the holy wood was on the verge of death, which was why its aura was so faint. She was very anxious to know what happened to the fragment. When she interrogated the holy maiden Yuan Maui, she did not show mercy at all. She did not mind using the most vicious method to pry the whereabouts of Chiochio's fragment out of this woman's mouth. This concerned her most important partner, so this matter could not be neglected or sloppy. Yuan Maui swallowed her saliva and said, The fragment was collected by our radiant light saint. And I was only fortunate to have worn this fragment for a few days. So it left a trace of its aura and was detected by you. At this point, Yuan Maui's eyes flickered slightly. Basically, everyone in Tianyun knows what I have in my hands. Everyone knows that not only do I have holy water, but I also have the holy wood. You should know this too, right? You deliberately let me detect the aura of the holy wood fragment. But what I want to know is, what makes you think that I will compromise and ask you for the location of the holy wood fragment? She glanced at her indifferently. Holy Maiden of Radiant Light, let me ask you again. Do you belong to Tianyun? The Holy Maiden of Radiant Light immediately shook her head as if she had been insulted, flatly denying, No. Our Radiant Light has nothing to do with Tianyun. The reason why our organization could grow is all because we gathered together to maintain the peace of the 3 continents, create prosperity together, and attack Tianyun. Arbor curled her lips. You almost made me believe you. Unfortunately, she did not believe a single word this woman said. Say, if I use you as bait, would your saint be willing to take out the holy wood fragment in exchange? Yuan Maui hurriedly shook her head like a rattledrum. No, impossible. She shook her head and said, The fragment is in the hands of the sage. The sage values the fragment more than his life. How could he exchange it for me? Arbor couldn't help but laugh. He raised his hand and patted Yuan Maui's face. There are exceptions to everything, aren't there? Yuan Maui felt that the little crown princess's hand was as cold as a dried-up bone in the depths of a cold lake. She couldn't help but shiver a few times. She really couldn't understand the young crown prince consort at all. What did she mean by that? I heard that the headquarters of the Radiant Light is located in an abandoned temple in the western suburbs of Dragon Flame City. Yuan Maui did not know where the little crown princess's hearsay came from. In fact, not many people in the outside world knew the location of their headquarters. Ever since it was set up in the temple, other than the members of the temple, no outsiders had ever entered or exited. The little crown princess was able to find out the location of the Zhaoguang headquarters overnight, which made Yuan Maui shudder uncontrollably. She didn't know whether to say that the crown princess was powerful or that the crown prince was powerful. The methods of this couple were truly frightening. Chapter 5202. She now recalls the crown prince's pair of ice pearl-like phoenix eyes coldly staring at her yesterday. Thinking about that scene, she can't help but shiver. She, Yuan Maui, must really be tired of living. She was actually so stupid to accept such a stupid mission, walking right into a trap and sending herself to the Qiao estate's front door. Right now, she really has the heart to die. If she had known earlier, she wouldn't have listened to other people's urging. They even said that after completing this mission, there would definitely be a special reward when they return. What reward? Her little life is about to be lost because of her. Say, what do you think Tianyun is planning? Supporting you, the Radiant Light, carrying the banner, winning over the hearts of the people everywhere. What is he trying to do? Is he trying to collect more experimental subjects? Arbor faintly looks at this radiant saintess. Yuan Maui shrinks back in fright. No, I don't know what you're talking about. I'll talk. Seeing that her hands are about to be forcefully thrown into the barrel of bliss, Yuan Maui screams in fright and hurriedly says, I swear, I really don't know the relationship between Tianyun and the Radiant Light. I'm just an orphan girl. Since I was young, I didn't have any other skills. I was picked up by someone. The saint said that I'm smart and quick-witted, more than enough to be a saintess. What I do every day is to feed that piece of sacred wood fragment. It's true. Every word I say is absolutely not false. Crown Princess, it's true. Feed? Arbor's eyes are incomparably cold. What do you use to feed? Use blood. The saint told me to feed the fragment a drop of blood every 3 days. I just did it. Seeing the little crown princess fly into a rage, looking like she wants to give her 2 slaps, Yuan Maui hurriedly begs for mercy. I also don't know. The saint told me to do it. I just did it. Crown Princess, spare me, Crown Princess, spare me. This time, the saint gave me a mission. He wants me to bring people to the Qiao residence to make a scene. It would be best if we could blow up the matter of you and Tianyun so that everyone knows about it and become famous in the 3 continents. Who knew that this crown prince consort was such a stubborn person? She didn't even have the chance to make a fuss before she was directly dragged off to the capital magistrate's prison. She really had 18 lifetimes of bloody misfortune on her. At this moment, this Yuan Maui no longer had the ethereal aura of a saintess. She had the appearance of a scoundrel. She cupped her hands and hurriedly said to the young Crown Princess, Crown Princess, spare my life. Crown Princess, spare my life. I, Yuan Maui, am actually just a hooligan on the streets. Being the saintess of this nuisance is just to make a living. Please let me go. I swear, I won't dare to come to your house to cause trouble again. Even if she had 180 times the courage, she wouldn't dare to go to the Qiao estate to cause trouble again. Wasn't he just making a ruckus and almost losing his life? Arbor sized her up and looked at her thoughtfully for a while. That maid by your side? Ah, right. You're talking about Han Su. She was sent by the saint to my side. She knows more than me. She told me to do everything. This saintess of bright light's pig brain didn't seem to be very bright. Only when the young crown princess mentioned it did she have a flash of inspiration. If there was a problem, she could let her maid, Han Su, take over. That's right, this Han Su was the one sent by the saint to only know her. Chapter 5203. Everything has nothing to do with me, Crown Princess, Yuan Maui begged bitterly. I beg you, Crown Princess, please let this lowly one off. You can treat this lowly one as a fart and let him go like this. Arbor stared expressionlessly at the woman who was kneeling on the ground and kowtowing repeatedly. It was really hard to imagine that at the 100-day banquet yesterday, in front of everyone, this woman was actually a fairy who had descended from the heavens, like a holy light descending from the heavens. With such a scoundrel appearance, if anyone were to see it, they would definitely be taken aback. When Han Su was brought up, she was struggling with all her might. Her pair of eyes were as big as copper bells, and she was charging around like a calf, unwilling to give in. Holy maiden, what are you doing? When she saw Yuan Maui lying limp on the ground, Han Su was so angry that her eyes widened and she scolded, Holy maiden, stand up for me. Why are you lying on the ground like this? Our Zhaoguang's face has been completely thrown away by you. Yuan Maui said angrily, I'm the one who's going to be killed by you all. If you didn't make me go to the Qiao Estate's entrance to act out that scene, how could I possibly be so unlucky? Isn't it good for me to stay at home and eat well? Why would I have to suffer in prison? Han Su, you were the ones who made me do this. Explain yourself to the Crown Prince Consort. Don't drag me down with you. Han Su couldn't help but laugh at her scoundrel appearance. This woman was originally recruited by the organization because of her beauty and the fact that it was a little interesting when she pretended to be a holy maiden. But now, she was covered in grease from head to toe and looked like an auntie on the streets. Even the only advantage of her beauty was gone. It's still hard to say who's dragging who down with you. Han Su couldn't help but scold. If the organization wasn't kind enough to take in a wandering beggar like you back then, would you be able to eat well and drink well? Right now, you're still on the streets with a family of beggars, continuing to starve. Why don't you think about who gave you the good days you're having now? Your whole family can live in a big house and eat white rice now. Who gave you the benefits? Ha! You're really an ingrate. Now that something has happened, all you want to do is shirk responsibility. What did you say? Han Su, you damned girl, you actually dare to speak to me like this. Yuan Maui pounced forward furiously, each pouncing accurately. Unfortunately, this person was also quite comical. How could he be Han Su's match when he was so weak? She was slapped to the ground by Han Su. Arbor couldn't be bothered to watch the two of them fight, so he gave a look to the two secret guards beside him. He ordered his men to drag the two of them away and throw them to the side. Han Su cursed and kicked Yuan Maui again and again. Yuan Maui, who had his hair pulled and beaten by Han Su, looked even more miserable now. If an outsider did not mention it, at first glance, they would really think that she was a beggar on the street. How could they connect her with the glamorous holy maiden of bright light from yesterday? Arbor was speechless as he looked at the two of them. With a wave of his hand, he had someone bring in Aunt Fei whom he had met yesterday. From the looks of it, Yuan Maui and Han Su weren't as calm as Aunt Fei. Arbor couldn't be bothered with them and turned to talk to Aunt Fei. This Aunt Fei's personality was rather calm and she answered very quickly. Chapter 5204. No matter what Arbor asked, she would obediently answer. It seemed like she was really cooperating. Aunt Fei was very clear that she had to cooperate. If she didn't, she could only cooperate. After all, the life and death of her group was in the hands of the little crown princess. And she, Aunt Fei, admitted that she wasn't that old. After so many years, she still hadn't lived enough. Naturally, she didn't want to die in this capital governor's residence for no reason. This servant used to be a member of the Pill Hall. Aunt Fei answered very honestly. It was only because I had to help cultivate the sacred wood that I was transferred to the radiant light. Arbor had already guessed that the radiant light and heavenly fortune were related. Now that he heard Aunt Faye's words, he once again confirmed his guess. Who didn't know about the flying heaven burrowing earth plucking stars concealing moon chasing sun hall? Adding in the talisman incantation hall and the pill hall, heavenly fortune had a complete set of pill talisman techniques. Han Su is also a member of the pill hall, Aunt Faye said. Hearing this, Han Su's face instantly darkened. Aunt Faye, are you tired of living? However, Aunt Faye only said indifferently, I've never been tired of living. Everything I do is to save my own life. Save your own life? Han Su couldn't help but sneer. Aren't you worried that you'll be punished by others if you speak too much nonsense now? I'm worried. Aunt Faye nodded. But what did I say? I only told the Crown Princess that I'm a member of the Pill Hall. She didn't clearly state where the Pill Hall belonged to. Han Su was so angry that she laughed. She stared coldly at Aunt Faye. The saint said that you're not of the same mind as us. Sure enough, he wasn't wrong. From the start, you never thought of working together with us. Then this old servant advises you not to be so stupid as to cause trouble at the Qiao estate. Did you all listen to my advice? Aunt Faye smiled and shook her head. I already said that there wouldn't be a good ending. Also, I didn't receive any orders from above to go to the Qiao estate to put on such a strange show. Han Su was furious. This was an order from the saint, an order directly given to me. What? You don't even care about saints now, do you? Aunt Faye only shook her head and said faintly, I can guarantee that even if the two of you return after completing the mission, you will be cleaned up. Do you believe me? Han Su couldn't help but shudder. Her entire body trembled. Then, she raised her eyes and glared at Aunt Faye. Don't make irresponsible remarks and threaten others. I won't be scared out of my wits just because you say a few words. Aunt Faye smiled and shook her head. Is that so? In fact, she was also very curious as to why the saint had given Han Su such an order. Just how great was the enmity between the saint and the young crown prince consort that he actually planned such a great show to ruin her reputation. Unfortunately, the little crown princess was still a powerful character. Such a small trick would not be able to make things difficult for her. In the end, the only ones who were at a disadvantage were the people from the Radiant Light Empire. The little crown princess had caught them by the tail and would never let them go again. The light was exposed. In the western suburbs of Dragon Flame City, in an inconspicuous and dilapidated temple. Looking at the man sitting at the top, who was silently turning the teacup in his hand, Guishuan hurriedly knelt on the ground and kowtowed several times. Chapter 5205. Family Head, what this lowly one said is all true, all true. I have the jade recording talisman as proof. Qin Hong glanced at him, and a man with a gloomy face standing beside him walked forward a few steps. He lifted Gu Yishuan up from the ground and snatched the jade talisman that he presented. Zhao Yi's words sounded from the jade talisman, act tonight. Don't worry, junior sister, I will definitely get this heaven and earth reversal talisman for you. Wait for my good news. Qin Mu snorted. Go inform Luo He and tell him to be careful of the traitor. Yes. The gloomy man, Ziqin, turned and cupped his hands at family head Qin. He was about to stride out the door. Suddenly, the door was kicked open, and a gust of cold wind blew in, blowing up the broken branches and leaves on the ground of the ruined temple. Second young master, what are you doing? Scram. Without another word, Qin Xian gave Qin Grass a heavy slap on the face and pushed him to the side. Qin Grass was furious. He raised his hand to cover his left cheek and narrowed his eyes at the second young master's back. His gaze was full of hatred. His dissatisfaction with this second young master rose again and spread like weeds. The second young master was indeed very condescending. He was so rude and unreasonable to him, the number one eunuch by family head Qin's side. His attitude of being at his beck and call clearly treated him, Qin Grass, as a mere dog. Despicable. Young Master Omega Kotoku strode in. Behind him, eunuch Wang Chung dragged a person in his hand like he was dragging a dead dog. There was a loud bang. Wang Chung smashed the person he was dragging to the ground, eliciting a pained cry. Family head Qin, who was sitting at the head of the table, stared coldly at the scene before him with a dark expression. With a deep shout, family head Qin forcibly suppressed the anger that surged into his heart. Second brother, what are you doing? Eldest young Sir Qin, who didn't mind the commotion, chuckled as he strode through the door. He cocked his head and stood at the side, unruffled in the midst of chaos, obediently becoming a spectator. He didn't say anything and just looked at his father with a faint smile on his face. When family head Qin saw his expression, he became even angrier. Both of his sons were very outstanding, but the problem was that they had never truly treated him as their father. No matter what they did, they had to go against him, as if everything he did to them was wrong. Damn it. Family head Qin calmly glanced at his two sons before his gaze landed on the man lying on the ground and wailing. The man's legs were crippled, and he was now lying there half drooping, like a dying dog. Why did you drag Patriarch Mu here? Qin Yi asked coldly. Oh my, is this really the Mu family head of our dignified talisman aristocratic family? Ayayaya, long time no see, you've really changed a lot. A light laughter came from the side. Family head Qin coldly glanced over. Deputy Hall Master Tu Wei, who was originally standing at the side, couldn't help but purse her lips and shut her mouth. It's been a while since I saw this Mu family head. He really is a capable person. Despite having two crippled legs, he can still work for his master. He really is a good dog blessed by the heavens. Tu Wei inwardly laughed and sized up Mu Jingfeng, who was half lying on the ground. Compared to his previous spirited and handsome appearance, this Mu Jingfeng was currently as shabby as an old man who picked up scraps on the streets. Oh my, this down-and-out appearance. Chapter 5206. If it weren't for the fact that his eyes were somewhat similar, Vice Hall Master Tu Wei simply wouldn't dare to recognize this person. In the past, Mu Jingfeng could be considered to be a good-looking man, but now, TSK, she couldn't bear to look at him. Mu Jingfeng was also considered a member of their hidden moon hall. However, ever since the previous failure to encircle and annihilate the Mu family and Mu Jingfeng's legs were burned by His Highness the Crown Prince, Tu Wei no longer had any intention of making use of this cripple. What good was a man whose legs were crippled and could no longer stand up useful? Speaking of which, she had always left him in some corner of the hidden moon hall and didn't care about him for so long. If she didn't see him again today, she wouldn't even remember where he died. Unexpectedly, this Mu Jingfeng still had some tricks up his sleeve. From the looks of it, who knew when he defected to master? Tu Wei was a little dissatisfied. This Mu Jingfeng defected to master, yet he didn't even tell her. She had wasted a lot of mutation pills for him previously. Mu Jingfeng was like a bug as he struggled to crawl on the ground, trying to roll to family head Qin's feet. However, under young Master Omega Kotoku's gaze, Mu Jingfeng stepped forward. Huang Chong took 2 steps forward and stepped on Mu Jingfeng's back, preventing him from moving forward. Second brother, what are you doing? Qin Hong glared at young Master Omega Kotoku in displeasure, his eyes filled with dissatisfaction. This son of his was truly becoming more and more outrageous. As the saying goes, even if you want to beat a dog, you still have to look at the face of its owner. Family head Qin would also feel that he had lost a lot of face for treating his subordinate like this in front of him. Qin Chao couldn't help but shout excitedly, "Second young master. Don't go overboard." No matter what, Mu Jingfeng is now considered master's subordinate. Aren't you afraid of chilling the hearts of your subordinates by doing this? Young Master Omega Kotoku gave Qin Chao another slap across the air, directly slapping him back a few steps and heavily knocking into a Buddha statue covered in dust. Cough, cough, cough. Qin Chao clutched his chest and coughed heavily a few times. He felt that young Master Omega Kotoku's palm strike was as heavy as 1,000 caddies, as if a huge mountain was covering him. His chest was about to split open. Tisk, why don't you just stay by the side? Why do you have to talk so much nonsense? Eldest young master waved the fan in his hand and added with a smile. Qin Grass secretly clenched his teeth, clutching his chest that was about to shatter. He coughed heavily a few times and retreated. Family head Qin's eyes involuntarily narrowed. Filled with anger, he glared at his son and said, "What are you going to do?" "Father, I told you not to provoke her." Family head Qin was furious. "How did I offend her? Which eye of yours saw me provoking him? On the other hand, the imperial court has been suppressing us, the Heavenly Fate Society, every day. They've even found a way to seal our entire Qin estate and moved everything from our house into the national treasury." Fortunately, he had long made arrangements. Before the Crown Prince and the young Crown Princess returned to Dragon Flame City from the River of Forgetfulness, he had already ordered people to move all of the estate's valuables back to the headquarters. Even so, those large items, as well as property deeds, were all confiscated. Their losses were disastrous. Not to mention that His Highness the Crown Prince was like a mad dog, leading people to search their Qin estate's shops in the capital all day long. It caused their Qin family to be unable to make ends meet, and all of their valuable shops were completely sealed. Chapter 5207. If not for Tianyin's deep foundation and having businesses all over the 3 continents, even cash flow would be a problem right now. Fortunately, those pill and talisman shops could not all be closed. These shops were still relatively profitable. Qin Hong was absolutely indignant at his son's words. Who would provoke that god of plague every day for no reason? It was already extremely fortunate that they were not provoked, all right. Young Master Omega Kotoku looked coldly at his father. Still denying it? Xiang Chong kicked Mu Jingfeng's body, causing him to tremble in pain as he cried out in a trembling voice, "Yes, yes, yes. Master, save me, Master. Master." Qin Hong scolded with a cold face, "Enough. Number 2, what exactly are you trying to say? Why did you send him to do that kind of senseless thing?" "What senseless thing? Speak clearly," Qin Hua said angrily. Eldest young Master Qin raised his hand to Yan and whispered, Father, don't be afraid to admit what you did. Didn't you send family head Mu to bring people from Zhaoguang to the Qiao family to cause trouble?" Qin Hong was silent for a moment before saying coldly, "Jingfeng, what's going on?" Mu Jingfeng sprawled there like a puddle of mud as he cried out tearfully, Master, it has nothing to do with me. Master, this, Before he could finish speaking, Wang Chung kicked him in the head. Young Master Omega Kotoku said coldly, "The facts are all there. You already admitted it earlier. What, you want to go back on your words in front of father?" "And no, it's not." Mu Jingfeng shook his head repeatedly and tried to crawl forward with all his might, but his back was stepped on, so he could not crawl forward. It was indeed me. I sent the Holy Maiden to the Qiao residence, to teach that evil girl, Arbor, a lesson. Right, since Master handed Zhaoguang to him to manage, as the Saint of Zhaoguang, with such great authority, why couldn't he seek some benefits for himself? She deserved it. That evil little girl deserved it. Did he do anything wrong? What did he do wrong? His mistake was to give birth to such a rebellious daughter who had no ancestral teachings and had no father in her eyes. If Arbor hadn't gone overboard, he wouldn't have ended up like this. His good son-in-law had used the black fire to burn off his 2 legs, forcing him to struggle at death's door in this world. Was it too much for him to ask someone to ruin this evil woman's reputation? This was retribution. She deserved this. What a hateful woman. She had captured all of Saintess Zhaoguang and her entourage. He had even arranged such a big show, but it didn't hurt her at all. Damn it, damn it, damn it. He knew his daughter too well. She was not a person who liked to explain. He asked Sacred Maiden Zhaoguang to bring a group of people to the Qiao residence to cause a ruckus, publicly pointing out that this evil woman was related to the upper echelons of Tianyun. In that case, he wanted to see her fall from grace and have a miserable ending. He did not want her to have a good life. What? He had already been harmed so miserably by that couple. Was it wrong to take revenge once? Where did he go wrong? Damn evil girl, why didn't she get her retribution? She treated her father like this. She deserved to fall from grace and die without a burial place. Wang Cheng kicked him a few times. Under the second young master's signal, he withdrew his foot from Mu Jingfeng's back. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.